7:30. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mattes. Here. Wagner. Here. Hendricks.
Here.
Shorten.
Here.
Van Hoff. Altoff.
Here.
Von Bergen.
Here. Okay, could I get a motion to let Mr. Hendricks in?
So moved.
Ms. Altoff?
I'll second.
Mr. Shorten? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Good morning, Mr. Hendricks. Next, could I get
Good morning, everybody.
a motion to approve the minutes for October 31?
I move.
Ms. Ness?
So moved.
Ms. Wagner? All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Okay. No public comments. All right, how about member comments?
Hold up. Thank you very much. Because we didn't know.
Yeah. All right, seeing none, I'm going to move ahead to new business. We've got quite a few interviews this morning. So Mr. Adamson, if you'd like to join us up here at the table.
So we have 4 interviews for CDHG and we have 5 applicants.
However, there
Yes.
was one applicant who did turn in his application on time, but was unavailable for the interview. Did you get any answers to that question?
I did not.
It is an individual who is returning to CDHG.
So what does that mean?
Do you have to be interviewed to be recommended to move forward to the chair?
I think that's ultimately the chair's discretion.
Okay, I'll put it out there before we do interviews. I would like us to consider, it was unavoidable that he could not make today's interview. He has served for 4 years. I'll turn to the chair of the committee to verify whether that's a good member or not member. But I would like us to consider just, adding him to the list. And if we want him to come back and interview at a later time, we can do that too. But I just think to facilitate things.
Can we have a name?
Robert Grammer.
Robert Grammer.
I think Mr. Adamson can attest that he has been an asset to the
I've
community.
known Rob for a long time.
Yeah.
I will let you know too. I have had a previous relationship with Mr. Grammer through McHenry Savings Bank. So, and I too find him to be, a viable, credible individual. So anyway.
So keep that in mind as we
Move forward.
move along. So thank you for coming in, Mr. Adamson.
Thanks for getting me in early.
We appreciate it. We appreciate your service. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, why you would like to continue being on the committee, and then we'll have a few minutes for member questions.
About myself, I'm Adamson. I lived in Crystal Lake 30 years this year. We paid off the house.
Congratulations.
And,
Did you throw like a bottle of champagne in the fireplace?
something. But, excuse me. I've worked in the county for most of that, almost all of that time. And banking, in fact, Rob Grammer, who we just mentioned, succeeded me at McHenry Savings. But in the meantime, the company that I work for, it's called the First Secured Bank Group. And we've got a few locations. I was in one of them for a while. And I was asked to, where's my voice going? Excuse me. But I was asked to come to the one in Bank and Wonder Lake because they had a need that I could fill. And the bank's owner was mindful that I didn't live that far away. So I've been there now for about 3 years and happy to be so. Other things that I do in the county, I'm on the board of Consumer Credit Services of Northern Illinois. And I'm active in the St. Dymphna group in Holy Sacred Heart Parish in Marengo. And good group of people. But I've been on the commission here for 3-4 years. I like it a lot. I've learned a lot. I've met people that I've learned to respect very easily. When an opportunity has arisen for me to contribute, I do. I think particularly when a petitioner comes up with something more of a financial or an economic issue, I try to speak up a little bit. My first or second meeting, Larry Smith came up to me and he says, I like it when members challenge the petitioners. But I don't do that a lot, but I do look at the numbers. But those are the high points. Enjoyed being on it. I think I've contributed. Does anyone have any questions?
No?
I do.
Okay, Ms. Alto.
Just because I know that, and I will note, just again for the record, that Melissa Adamson, who's our Director of Public Health, is a sister-in-law, right?
Yep.
Yep. You've served for 4 years. What do you see as some of the obstacles and challenges that you're dealing with currently on the board? What insight can you give us here?
Not too many obstacles. Once in a while, I think a petitioner comes, fairly infrequently, somewhat poorly prepared. And I don't know if that could be helped more by better interaction with staff or not. I don't know. The one that comes to mind was someone who wanted rather a lot of money to do a lot of work on a building, and he couldn't tell me how many doors, how many lintels, how many windows, and I do construction lending. I know these things. I wasn't hard on the guy, but I think if he'd been better prepared, he might have made a better presentation.
And can I ask, again, I know you said it's not often, but is it, you obviously brought it, you mentioned it, so obviously it happens more than one time, more than 2 times. And is it always the same? They're just not well prepared for the questions that are being asked?
Or completing the application?
Only one comes to mind, but yeah, I think that he was poorly prepared, and I think maybe with some coach. And I had the impression that his petition was made rather late, but I think he came unprepared, and maybe if he had more time or more interaction with staff, he could have made a better presentation.
Thank you.
That's all.
Any more questions?
Okay,
Again,
thanks.
thank you. So,
I would just ask you, I mean,
Okay.
you obviously are one of the 2 county board members that serve on the commission.
yeah, he's been an asset. I appreciate his insights, especially in the construction, lending. And I do remember that presentation, and it was unfortunate because it seemed to be a great project, but there were some questions.
I think that they could come back.
Yeah.
And even, dealing with, not my bank, a local lender could probably give them some guidance and some discipline. And Habitat might have been a good resource for the guy too. So that's, to the extent that I have any kind of criticism at all, it's pretty minor.
And what good things have you seen?
Food shed was fun. And I had to abstain on all of those because we financed them. But like the last time he came in, he was talking about Harvard being a food desert, and we're all going, what? And technically they are.
Technically,
Yeah.
they are.
There was a Walmart grocery store there, it can't be all that bad.
Well,
It was interesting.
under the definition of food
Yeah.
desert, Harvard is a food desert.
I wish Wonder Lake could support something like that.
Yeah, Wonder Lake is, they're a food.
Arid. What's that?
Well, when the gas station is the Oasis, I guess they're.
Yes, yes. Well, your bank is there, so who knows what's gonna happen in Wonder Lake in years to come.
We just added a canopy, we're staying.
Yeah, hallelujah, that's good.
Yeah. And maybe, honestly, the only reason Hebron isn't being reopened, and it was closed when my group bought it, staffing. if we had enough people, we'd open up here.
That's good to know. That would be helpful.
Thanks again.
Okay,
Thanks for
well,
getting me
thank you.
early. We have
Nice
a,
meeting you.
we
We've met.
we have a Tuesday teleconference with the bank's owner that I gotta get there for. Hence I'm wearing my company shirt.
Perfect. Thank you
Well,
very
we
much. It
do-
was a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
We will let you get on your
Yeah,
waiting day.
thanks.
We've got a couple of interviews and we will be in touch. Okay, I did see Sue out in the hallway. She's next. Ooh,
It's big.
yes.
Where do I sit?
Wherever you want.
Right in front of the Jeff.
Oh,
will
okay.
take that chair, that way.
Good morning, Sue. Good morning. Thank you for coming in. You'd like to, yes, have a seat and tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in continuing to serve on CDHG.
I've been involved with the CDHG program for quite a few years. When I was on the county board, and then I came back after I was actually asked to come back on the committee. And I think it's important to have citizens from all around the county to be on this commission because we're familiar with the areas, and if they're low income or whatever, we can tell our municipalities about the funds that come through. And I just think it's good to have history on the board because it's always a changing animal. And Tracy's been a great chair, but I think between you and Larry and I, we can kind of keep those meetings moving too. So, and I just I like to give back to the community, and I've been like that most of my life. So I like to continue on the board.
Well, you were a county board member you were on.
Yes.
Yeah. So I ask all incumbents, so what can you tell us that you view as challenges and obstacles? And then, kind of from your perspective, evolution. What have you seen change that could have been done better, worse?
Well, I know I've been on this board long.
You've got a great perspective, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the sometimes the conversation coming in from the federal government can kind of, like the last time, kind of tell us how they want the money spent, where before we would get these big projects and put them over a few years, and then in the past year or so they said, we want you to complete projects at one and done. So that makes it, because we were like, let's try to help everybody that comes in for funds. And sometimes we have $1 million to give out and we have $2 million in requests. And that's the biggest challenge is how do you prioritize, one municipality over another or one, I think that's the hardest because most people that are sitting here are, different areas and they, that's closer to their heart that they would like to see, money come into their community. So I think that's the biggest problem is, sometimes we don't have enough money to help everyone that needs it.
So is this the home money? It used to be a part of the commission.
Yes,
and
it's
got
part of
broken
home
up.
and
Yeah.
part community block grant.
Yeah, I was on the very first commission.
How are you?
Yeah, back in
Long time ago.
the Stone Ages, yeah. And we actually, after the second year, did ranking and scoring
Yeah,
of applications.
right.
For that very reason.
Yeah, and we ask, if someone has a few different projects going on, we'll ask, what's a priority? Because you might not get all the money you're asking for. And I'm hoping that the service agencies and municipalities realize that maybe they want to do all the windows or, 4 roofs. Well, we don't have money for all that. So I believe they're
They just
understanding.
are giving you their best shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We do have a ranking system
Yeah.
in place, but
Because you can't, the idea of doling out a little bit here and a little bit
Yeah.
there, you can't get anything. for
Right,
it.
and I think we've
Yeah.
raised the bar as far as requests. Don't request something under 20,000 because it used to be 5,000 for new carpet in, this little room. So, and I remember those little requests coming in, so I think it makes more sense, let's ask for.
They never did, it was the first round. We did largely infrastructure in low-income areas.
Yeah, so
Roads
it's kind of changed too, where,
Yeah.
a lot of the service agencies come in asking for,
the rehab money.
yeah,
Yeah.
and, so.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I will say that Sue has been a great asset to the committee and very helpful in making those decisions and
I get that. Just
keeping us focused,
And
which is challenging sometimes.
And I just say thank you for, continuing interest and commitment.
Yeah, it's just one of the committees when I was on the board that I liked the most because you really felt you got a big bang for your buck and you're really helping people, and you could see they would come back and tell us about their projects and we would sometimes go out for, like the ribbon cutting or sometimes we'd actually meet at the different places. So that was then you could actually see what, where that money went. So that was really nice.
Is there anybody else that has any questions? Okay, well, thank you again for your service and for coming in this morning. Had quite a few
I saw that. I looked at the
interviews
agenda this
going
morning.
on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this morning. So, you're more than welcome to stay or get on with your day.
I'll probably get on with my day. But I see
Definitely
you
be in touch. Yeah, Jim swore on you.
You already indicated how wise you are.
Yeah, I spent many hours in this building. I don't really need to sit anymore right now.
Yeah, so
There
thank
are
you.
brackets around you.
Okay, well, thank you for having me and have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shew.
Is he on the commission?
So the next two would be new. Good morning, Mr. Shew. I'm Tracy Von Bergen, Chair of Public Health and Community Service. I also chair CDHG, so welcome. Thank you for applying. If you could just take a couple of minutes to tell us about yourself and your interest in the commission, and then we'll kind of follow up with a few questions if anybody has any.
Sure. Well, a little of my background, I grew up in Wisconsin, southeastern, rural Wisconsin. Went to school at UW-Milwaukee, graduated with a master's in structural engineering, civil engineering structural. I've been working for a little over 30 years in that field as a structural engineer. The last little over 20 as an independent consultant with my own firm. Had a stint working for the city of Chicago as a plans examiner for about 5 years. Great experience seeing how things worked in the big city. Moved out here in 2001 and have always had a heart for a helping hand to those who needed a start, because I had that when I was in school. I needed that. I had federal grants that helped me through to get my degree. Graduated college virtually debt-free because of it. And I just hope for the best for everyone in the community.
Any questions, Ms.
I
Salto?
always have questions. So don't be surprised, because I'm always the one who does.
No
So
worries.
can I, do you go by Theodore or Ted?
Ted.
Ted. Have you attended any of the meetings or have you watched any of them on the county streamlined services?
For this
For this commission?
itself? No, I wasn't even aware of it until a friend made me aware of it
Okay.
a couple of weeks ago.
So I guess my question would be, well, why this? Why does this appeal to you? Or it was just an opportunity to volunteer?
It's an opportunity. I think also as I've gotten older, I've become aware that, you know, our government works best when the citizenry is involved, and have felt that it's my time to begin to give back more.
And so here come the difficult ones. Are you aware of how often the commission meets, and are you aware of the length of time some of the meetings last? Because a few of them, how long?
We usually have 2 days in a row. The first day is usually an all day, and then the next day is a half a day for presentations and allocations.
And I only ask because I serve on a similar commission, and once you make that commitment, it's the presentations and the information that's provided during those extraordinarily long days. It's crucial for you to be there, so I just want to make it clear from the get-go that if you make the commitment, you got to be there.
Gotcha. And I would imagine that we're getting materials ahead of time to be
Always.
prepared. So,
Always.
yes.
And typically, the dates of the meetings are scheduled in advance, so you can make that, commitment on your schedule.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I wasn't aware that they were that long. I was aware that the commission meets 6 or 7 times a year, but exactly what that looked like, no, I wasn't aware.
Again, it's a particular sticking point with somebody like me who knows that people want to volunteer, but don't do the previous research on what that means and what that commitment is. So just so you know that they are long.
Well,
Yeah,
and the
that's
other
good to know.
piece is, I think it's perfectly okay to say, I don't have that kind of time, and then let
Absolutely.
someone who has time to take that spot, rather than
Sure.
you backing out and then we have to appoint somebody.
Yeah, as the proprietor of my own firm, I have a tremendous amount of flexibility in my schedule. So there are other things that I'm able to do as well, like that when I need to. And so I don't see that as a problem.
And the committee is made up of mostly outside community members like yourself. And we try and do a kind of a geographic mix so that we get people from all over the county. The only 2 board members that actually participate in this particular commission are the chair, which is Ms. Von Bergen, as well as Larry Smith. Those are the 2 board members. So having said that, and I'm assuming you didn't know that.
No, I wasn't.
I want, and I don't want to make any assumption, but I want you to clarify this comment that you made in your application, because it took me aback a little bit. In response to the question, what do you hope to accomplish as a result of serving the elected office or board and commission for which you are applying? You responded with so much positive going for this county. Thank you very much. There can be a temptation for officials to tinker in ways that can have unintended consequences. So I guess my question to you is, what have you seen and what are you referencing that you think we're tinkering with?
Well, it's not specific to the county. It's just my observation in general.
So why did you say that then?
Well, let me finish and then we can.
So this is a position that I expect I would have to grow into.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to learn. I've got experience in the kind of the general area of development and design and planning, that kind of thing. But this is an area I've never been involved in. Not never, been involved in some public housing projects in the city, but not in the way that in a pre-project preliminary kind of a place. So my only concern is that, so it's kind of if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime, kind of a philosophy. So it's a broader philosophy. I don't know how it might work its way out specifically on a commission like this, but it's just kind of the broader framework within which I operate.
Okay, so I'm so confused about tinker.
And I'm also, you understand that these are largely, these are not like service-driven funding. So when you say give a man a fish, we're talking sometimes about sewer and water in low-income
Right.
areas. So we're really actually not talking about, this is not public housing per se. This is often municipalities who come to this commission for help with significant sewer and water. And so, yeah, so I also find the comment that McHenry County is growing and the state is shrinking. I'm not sure how those two things exist simultaneously within the state, but I would love to hear the tinkering, like what you think we've tinkered with in this county.
Like I said, it's not anything specific. I think there is a tendency in government to tinker. And like I said, I'm not, I would have a question to the commission, what types of projects does this commission get involved in? I would imagine that municipalities, Crystal Lake, Algonquin, McHenry, the larger municipalities, probably have a more like boots on the ground involvement in specific project development.
Only if they're in a designated low-income area.
Right.
They can't apply if they're not in a designated low-income area.
But I would imagine that those are the areas where you might have a greater population or potential for that, of low income, need, that kind of a thing. I don't know, like I said, not even being aware a month ago that this commission existed.
Yeah.
I have a lot to
Probably
learn.
a lot you don't know.
Right, exactly. So,
And do you do an orientation before members take their seats?
No, that has been up for discussion.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a recommendation that as we get new people, because we now do that for senior services too. And I want to be very frank that the hairs on my neck stood up when I read that, because it makes me believe again that most people are ill-informed about the rules and the foundation and the structure that we are all subject to as government. We have to be transparent, we have to follow rules, and I think that this county does a phenomenal job in that regard. And I certainly won't do anything that prohibits somebody from choosing to volunteer. I would just ask all the way down to my toes that you keep an open mind and you watch what happens. And as you learn the specifics of that, you share that with all the people that you know, how it works and how structured and how well we do with what we're given. Because I think in this program in particular, and under the helm of Larry and Tracy, we've done an unbelievably good service to our McHenry County community.
Well,
And I apologize, and I was kind of a little bit,
well, I don't
tinker had a negative
apologize
effect
for
to
it.
me.
I mean,
no,
I
that's
think,
fine.
you have to, they have $1 million. That's it. That's it. They have $1 million.
I know.
I mean, it's not like they have $10 million
Yeah.
that they get to run out and splurge. $1 million often over requested. I can't imagine. Do you ever have, it's like, we just have $1 million and we got
It's
$1 million.
usually double
So,
what we,
yeah. And sometimes
Yeah.
what might look like tinkering to people is really giving somebody just enough to get rolling and get going. Because that's all we have. I mean, if we want more.
Yeah, and I apologize if that's a very vague term to use, and I probably could have done a better job
Well,
of
I think
explaining.
it criticizes the people doing the work. Like the
Sorry?
work they've done hasn't been valued or important, because we don't tinker.
Oh, no, that was,
Well,
that was,
we're giving you some feedback.
yeah.
Ready? Welcome
I
to
got it.
Politics 101. It's crucial, isn't it? So, and again, I welcome the opportunity for individuals who are not overly familiar with something to get engaged, because I think it's a great opportunity for that individual then to learn and to grow in that particular position and then share that with other people. So I get it,
Sure.
but again, welcome to Politics 101.
So
thank you for applying. I appreciate that. That did alarm me also, because this is not a political position. This is a serving the community position where we have to look at who needs the money and who needs to grow. So that does concern me. And also, you haven't seen any of the videos or any of the meetings, so you're applying kind of blind and not sure exactly what you're getting into, because you're even asking us questions. So are you willing to sit back and let the process go and just learn for about a year?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because it is a fabulous commission. They've done so much good in the county, and I don't think there's any tinkering needed, but I mean, different opinions are always, different opinions are always welcome, and views are good, because then we can see the other side of things. So thank you for applying and answering these questions honestly. It does make a difference, and yeah. And it's basically federal pass-through money with very rigid standards that we have very little latitude to say, we're gonna ignore that, because you just don't, otherwise you don't get the money the next year, so.
Yeah, I understand.
So all of the meetings are video recorded. If you are still interested in keeping up with them, that's an excellent thing to do. I did that for a couple of years before I ran for county board, actually longer than that, but it was very entertaining. So I think, there'll be something that, I'm sure will catch your interest with your background.
Mr. Shorten, did you?
I just, Ted lives around the corner from me, so he drives by once in a while, sees me out, and have quick conversations. I'll not use the T word, since I think everyone's uttered it at this point. But I think that if he's appointed to this board, I've known Ted for 4 years now, ish. Patient, understanding, and listen, and I'm happy. Come and knock on my door if you have any questions about it. So, where you see any T words taking place, we'll walk through it.
Mr. Hendricks, did you have any questions?
I do not.
Where's he projecting his voice from?
Do we have any other questions or insight or comments? Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in and for your interest to serve. We certainly appreciate it. We do have a number of interviews to get through. You're more than welcome to stay. Otherwise, we will let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Because we did, Adam, I'll be happy to, because we did that. Yeah, and I did an orientation.
Yeah.
So if you want, I'd be happy to do that.
Morning. Good morning.
How are you
Thank
today?
for coming in.
Thank you.
Certainly appreciate it. I'm Tracy Von Bergen. I chair Public Health and Community Services, and I also chair CDHG. So welcome and thank you for applying. If you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in the commission, and then we'll follow up with any possible questions.
Oh, great. So first I want to thank you for your service. I appreciate everybody on the board, all the work that you do. I'm newer to being involved with the county board and just how our county works. And I really have an interest in helping, and I think that this might be a good commission where I could add my experience. I'm in the financial industry. I'm a compliance officer in mortgage banking. I've worked for a couple builders, so I'm familiar with permitting, bonds, and stuff like that. Compliance officer by nature. I just feel like I could add some value to the commission, and I really want to get involved. And I know your commitment is huge. I just think this is a great place to start working with team members.
So tough.
This is my role, so here you go. So my first question is have you ever attended any of the commission meetings or had an opportunity to view them on our streaming service?
So I just started doing the Zoom calls. I have not done the Public Housing Commission yet. I just saw that it came available in the last 3 weeks. So I have not viewed your meetings, but I have started attending Zoom calls because like during the day, it's harder for me to come and attend county board meetings, but I can do those while I work.
Okay, so you understand this is a commission?
Yeah.
And there's
yes.
only 2 county board members that serve
Yep.
on this commission? Okay.
Yes.
So you're familiar with what their mission is and what they do?
I am not as familiar with the goal is of the commission. I know it's for public housing and you work with the grants. No,
It's not public housing.
no, it's not public housing, no, housing and development.
There's some housing
Very little.
components,
Okay.
but very,
So what,
yeah.
I guess I would be curious what you think public housing is.
Well, I meant community development, like the grants, you work with grants, correct?
So public housing, people usually equate that with Section 8.
Oh, no.
No.
I meant developing in our community,
Oh, okay.
not public.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
no, that's quite all right.
I kind of knew what you meant, though. You had me. I was following you, so.
Well, I want to be
think-
clear, because
I think
sometimes when people say public
you two have
housing,
it
they
on
mean
that
Section 8
workforce
for low
housing.
income people in housing. And I just want to be clear that that's not the primary goal of the Housing Commission
It's to develop our community, correct?
in low income areas.
Correct, low to moderate,
Right.
which I also deal with Community Reinvestment Acts with my banking.
Okay.
That was kind of what I thought that this commission worked
And
with.
you can learn, we just, a due diligence. Also, you just made a comment that it's hard for you. You're aware that this commission, there are times that this commission meets all day long.
Yes.
There are presentations, so I just want to make sure.
So let me
because it's-
rephrase that. It's hard for me to compare myself to the board members and the time commitment that they put in county board. I just, in attending meetings, I had no clue how much time is required of just the county board without being involved in commissions. I just felt the commission was more something I
Doable.
could commit to, yes.
Okay, so again, there's typically 7 meetings. 2 of them last very, very long into the day. I just want to make sure you understand that's the commitment you would be making and
Absolutely.
you have to be there.
And I can take time off of work and attend the meetings, yes.
And for all of those who don't believe that we actually read these applications, we do. And so I have a concern where when we provide a list of challenges you feel the board or the commission is facing at this time, I got the ever-changing regulatory environment because that happens everywhere. But your comment, lack of public opinion and or participation, you want to elaborate on that for me a little
Yes,
bit?
meaning we in the public are not involved with the board. We're not, we look to our elected officials to fix everything and we don't partake. And that's more ownership on us as citizens, not you as board members or commission members, meaning we are not involved and we just expect the world to fix everything for us, and I just think that's wrong. I just feel like without being involved and without, contributing, how can we expect change?
What change do you want to see?
No, I'm not saying you need to change
No,
your.
I'm asking.
No.
Oh, I
In
just
general.
meant overall, just government in general. I think people have not been involved, citizens have not been involved. And I just feel like this is it's a broad statement that I made. I'm not saying we're doing anything wrong. I'm just saying as citizens, we're not involved enough. And I feel like this, in going to different board meetings and then seeing this opportunity come up, where is a good use that I could start and learn and help and
Be
contribute.
engaged.
Yes.
Got it. But I would also,
I'm not looking to change what you guys are doing.
Well,
I'm
of
looking
course
to.
not, because that wouldn't happen, but, because you're one person.
Right,
And
right.
so, but when okay, I'm just gonna drop it there.
And again, and I'm not beating, I just want to make it abundantly clear, and I appreciate that, because I agree with you. I don't think that there's a general interest by the public
No.
to become engaged in government and get feedback. But you've got a couple things in here about board members, and this is a commission that is made up of only 2 board members, and all the other participants are community individuals who have decided they too want to get involved and are volunteering to learn government better. So the interaction with the board will be limited. It comes through the other two members of the board. And we would welcome you to attend those meetings, where anything that you do is on the agenda. But I just want to make it clear, because I think sometimes when you look at the information on the website, it doesn't give you necessarily an overall true picture of what is your responsibility and what's expected of you. Just want to make it clear, that's all.
And I think the other piece to it is in this learning process, we know the board is in existence, but I don't think I myself had an awareness of how many committees make up all the work that comes to the board. So I didn't even realize there were committees that we could get involved and possibly help and learn. And I'm new to this. I am going to say I'm new to this, but I'm willing to learn and contribute where I can.
And that is appreciated. Thank you. I'm good. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you for applying. I was just curious, what brought you to this? Who introduced you to all the different commissions, and what made you choose this one?
I really have been paying attention to board meetings. I've been trying to attend when I can. And then I go to a grassroots meeting with people on Monday nights. And Kelly, you've helped us in my own neighborhood with my own housing. You were my representative. You helped us we live on Emerald, with several things with zoning and stuff. So I really appreciate the work that's done with just in general in the county. And in our meetings, and one of the things we've realized, and this is nothing to do political, what side, left side, right side, I don't care. This is about helping our community. And that's where I stand. I really just want to be a part of it, a part of our community.
Well, you do know the commission is nonpartisan.
Yes, yes, and that's even more important because
Well, we don't carry a political ideological agenda.
That's even more refreshing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hendricks? Sorry. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
And while you're here, do you have any questions for us? Is there anything we can help explain
Yes.
that clarifies things for you? Please, ask.
Yes, so since I was a little bit off on the description of, I didn't mean to say public housing, could you give me an area where somebody coming in possibly could help?
Well,
I was going to say, Chairman, why don't you give her an example of several different applicants that have come before you in the last year?
They're quite extensive. It can be anything from Habitats for Humanity. They come quite often. Homeless Sparrow comes. But then we also have municipalities that come before us for any big projects that they need help with, anywhere from community development to there've been a couple of road projects where they just need a little bit extra to get things done. So it's really quite diverse in the applicants that we see, but they do all typically benefit the low to moderately income areas. So that's kind of, some of the social programs that do come before us, those are actually limited to a certain percentage of the entire allocation. So it is a little bit more community development focused.
When we became an entitlement county, so we hit a certain population level, we compete in this county for HUD monies that we used to compete statewide for. So now we could compete within McHenry County. So at the time, Pioneer Center used to they do all their group home rehabs through this funding. Well, now it's opened up to sewer and water and development, which makes it difficult. So it's not services, it's pretty much bricks and sticks.
Okay.
So,
Do you work with HUD a lot?
It's HUD money.
It's HUD money, yeah. And I would, again, one of the comments I made, and I'm certain, is that there'll be an opportunity for you to attend like a pre-meeting or an orientation to get an idea, because it is federal money that comes down through the state to the county. And so you'll get a little bit of background on what the responsibilities are, and the event that the chairman moves you forward. Don't take anything for granted.
I'm very familiar with FHA and HUD, because I do.
Right,
Yeah.
Well, it's just really that one time we were in a big pond and now we're in a smaller
So is that
pond.
better or is that harder?
It was harder, I think, for agencies that competed for rehab money for their group homes, because now you threw everybody else into the pot. We didn't compete for infrastructure, and so we didn't compete for that stuff, roads in low-income areas. So I think, and the money is limited. The money is way more limited, but it's still, we have more control over how we allocate that and where we allocate it to. So, you know, it's kind of yes and, yes and.
It's like anything.
Has it grown?
No,
It's
no.
actually, last
The
year,
funding has shrunk?
we were allocated less
Yeah.
than what we had anticipated. So that was a pretty big challenge for us.
And that might happen again.
Yeah, very well
So
could.
it's very, so for instance, places like Wonder Lake that couldn't get money for a sewer and water project came to this commission for money. That's what you do.
Okay.
That's what you do, basically.
You find it very challenging and yet very rewarding.
Mr. Shorten had a quick question.
I just want to thank you for applying and clarifying your statement about public participation. But I think it's an important statement too, because we're looking at we have 5 appointments and 4 applicants. And if you look out in the peanut gallery here, there's no members of the public. So,
Sad.
yeah, so I appreciate the fact that A, you're coming out, and B, you're coming out and wanting to get involved and be part of the entire process. So
Thank you.
I just want to recognize that.
And that's why we have meetings in the morning and meetings in the evening, is to try and accommodate all work schedules, because some people obviously work during the day, others work in the evening. So we try and balance it so that there is more public
It's so hard to
participation.
get people involved.
Life
It
is
really
tough.
is busy. People are overwhelmed. Well, it just is, yes, it's not an excuse. It's just,
But they're the same ones that want change, and why isn't this changing, and why did my taxes go up, or why did my school board do this, and it's like, did you go to a meeting, did you, so, yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you, really, very much.
Yes, thank you. All right, do we have any more questions?
No.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming in. You're more than welcome to stay. It'll be a little bit before we deliberate. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to get on with your day, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, guys, have a nice Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
You too, enjoy.
Okay.
Take every opportunity. No, just, I'm waiting for a date,
Okay.
and I don't mean out to dinner.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Mattes?
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Tracy Von Bergen. I'm the Chair of Public Health Community Services, but I also chair, or actually, no, I'm in a routine here because you are applying for the Mental Health Board, sorry. We do have Connie Machini here in the audience. Leo Rizzi was here.
She'll be back.
She
took a phone
should be
call.
back.
She just
But thank you for coming in and applying. If you could just take a few minutes, tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in the Mental Health Board.
Sure. Well, I grew up in the county. My family has lived here since the mid-1970s, and except for a couple of periods, including college, I've been a lifelong resident of the county. Attended North Elementary and North Junior High School before it was for notice. Started taking flying lessons at Lake and Hills Airport when I was 14, and worked on stage crew at Woodstock Opera House. My dad was an actor in a couple of productions there, so pretty deep roots in the county. interested in mental health. Unfortunately, my family struggles with it. It runs in our family. I lost my brother to suicide in 2018, and I've also, I currently take antidepressants, so I'm a patient. I've actually used the McHenry County Health Services about 20 years ago, so I've been a patient, or a customer, whatever the best word is for it. So that's where my interest comes from. So that's what brought me here today.
Great, thank you.
So how familiar are you with what I'm always the first one, with what the mental health board does?
Somewhat familiar. I've studied it from the website. So I know it's a 9-member board, and you've got about 30 providers, and approximately $12 million budget. Details of the operations, not very familiar.
And you're familiar with the commitment, the meeting commitments, and you can do that and
Yes.
be present at all?
Yeah.
Have you seen any of the
subcommittees? I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. Have you attended any of the meetings or seen or listened to any of them on the website?
I have not, no.
It's a fairly recent addition with the videotaping of those meetings, but yeah, they would be good to watch.
I did watch the 101 introductory video on the website.
Oh, okay, cool, cool.
I was meaning to study the minutes, but unfortunately been busy. It's been a busy year.
So this is one of those rare opportunities that we actually have more applicants than positions, which doesn't happen that often. So my ask to you is segregate yourself. What makes you a better choice than the other candidates for the position?
Well, it's a tough question. I don't know who the other candidates are.
Well, just in general, what do you bring that is unique or special that you think will add to the deliberations of, parceling out money to our various providers?
Certainly. I'm a member of the Libertarian Party. I'm actually the secretary of the state party. So I am very fiscally conservative. I'm an independent businessman for my employment. I'm a messenger and I also fly a drone. But for about 20 years I've been self-employed, so I file my quarterly taxes. I have zero tolerance for waste, fraud, and abuse.
So do you think the mental health board has waste, fraud, and abuse?
I have not seen any as of yet.
Because
there's always potential for better results. I'd like to see an increased emphasis on wellness and prevention.
And how would you fund that?
Well, we have the funding from the sales tax. So we're going to look at what programs we have now, what's most efficient, what can potentially be sacrificed. Use those funds for something else. And again, I don't believe that there is waste, fraud, and abuse rampant. I have no reason to believe that, but there's always potential for those to be better, be more efficient.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You had your face.
When I said, they asked if I believe that there was any waste, fraud, and abuse, and I have no reason to. However, I always think that there's always room for improvement.
Okay.
I guess I'm curious about sacrificing. How would you determine which programs or services you would sacrifice? Because currently with the sales tax, they're getting less money than they did under the levy.
Correct.
So how would you make that decision?
Based on data, based on the evaluations and audits that are already occurring.
Okay.
Ms. Wagner.
So it's, the situation of how going from property tax to sales tax and the financial bind that they're in.
Yes.
Okay, so what would you do to alleviate that, or what would you do going forward with the finances?
Well, if we're bound to income from a sales tax, one way to increase revenue, if that's what's needed, is to foster greater economic development and participation in the community in general.
But sorry, I probably didn't phrase my question right. What kind of decisions would you make as a board member for the mental health board, as a result of the lower amount of money, you know, they do have some reserves, but they need that to keep programming stable. So just wondering, like, would you cut funding? Would you use reserves? Would you find other, I mean, I guess I don't want to answer the question for you. What would you do?
Well, they're all, you know, on the table, and it's a matter of finding what works best. One possibility that I would explore is see if there's potential for volunteers to fill some of the roles. I'm a volunteer with the McHenry County Emergency Management Agency. We've got about 4 dozen volunteers, and there's only 4 paid staff members. So a lot of what we get done happens through volunteerism.
So you're talking staffing for the mental health board or staffing for
Potentially, it
agencies?
depends. I'm unfortunately not entirely familiar, but there must be some possibilities where that could be utilized.
I have a question. Are you done? I'm sorry. Do you have any experience where you've seen volunteerism help for mental health? I mean, I was in long-term care for 18 years and I've never seen that work. Do you have anything you can, you know, like put your hands on to give an example of how that might work?
The only thing I could point to is that we've had collaboration between mental health and emergency management in the past. I haven't seen it myself, but it has occurred. You know, when we had the unfortunate incident with the bus hitting with the train hitting the school bus, there were counselors. They were counselors from mental health who provided services when we had the AJ Crane incident.
Fox River Road.
Well, the bus crash was Fox River Road, correct? Yeah. To answer your question, have I seen it work? No.
The reason I ask this question is because it does come up from time to time. You're not the first one who would suggest that. And it bothers me a little bit because it's a very serious job. And to rely on volunteers to provide a vital service like that, it just kind of bothers me a little bit.
I can understand that. I don't think that I would rely.
I think it's really close to me, so you probably can hear the emotion in my voice.
Sure.
But I just wondered where that came from with you, and that's why I asked if you had ever seen it work.
Certainly, yeah. No, I understand the concern.
Yeah.
I've seen volunteerism work in.
Well, I know it can work very, very, you know, like volunteer police and firefighters and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of areas where it can work, and believe me, I've been a volunteer for many agencies, and although I'm trained to do some of that work, I wouldn't want to volunteer to do mental health work.
Mr.
Just-
Shortman
just-
has
I mean, NAMI, I believe, which is housed in the mental health board building, they use volunteers within
But they don't
their
do
work.
clinical work.
It's clinical is totally different.
They don't do
thing.
They
clinical.
don't do
Yeah.
clinical, but volunteers fill a gap.
Yeah, but Mike, I don't want to, they don't do ongoing therapy or therapy groups.
Understood.
It's all education.
Right, but they fill a gap that otherwise would cost money.
Yeah, but
There may be some gaps that can be filled, but, you
like
know, and
support
I,
groups, they do those.
I think, please, Leo
think Leo
probably can
can-
give us
I
more
think Leo
insight
can.
on.
Yeah,
Give us
I was just gonna mention, he mentioned the Fox River Road bus train incident. It was October 25th of 1995. I will never forget that because I ran crisis services at that time, which the mental health board funded. And those were not volunteers. Those were our disaster plan that the mental health board had funded. So those were professionals. And we did coordinate other volunteers, but they were all clinical professionals, part of the disaster plan.
I think it's a worthy thought.
Yeah.
I just cannot see it working in terms of people who have a mental illness, a diagnosis, who are required by law to follow a certain specific treatment plan and document that in order to be reimbursed. That is the world we live in. And Yeah, I know Turning Point, we used to train volunteers to do support group all the time. We had support volunteer advocates, but we didn't do clinical work. We did advocacy. We never did that. So I guess the thing is, if you come on the mental health board, you have a responsibility as a board member to secure the entire network, the entire $12 million network. And that's a huge responsibility and commitment to the board and to the community. So I would really encourage you to take a look at those meetings and really know what you would be getting yourself into before you would, come to a meeting. And I think that would work.
I think that's good advice, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that there is an important distinction or point that should be made. There is not one class that is volunteers and the other that is professionals. When I became certified for search and rescue, it was very clear after the time commitment that we went through training that we're not just kind of the people who show up and fill sandbags. We're now unpaid professionals. So
I get that. We used to say at Turning Point, we have staff. Some get paid and some do not.
Yeah.
And because we were all advocates, we all did the same thing. I would probably go into the agency today, it would be very different than in 1983. But I have a heart for that.
and certainly this board is filled with unpaid professionals.
Oh, gosh.
Not unpaid, but very close to it.
I think we make $1.98. More than you thought, huh?
No idea.
Mr. Hendricks, did you have any questions?
No, none.
Do you have any questions for us, Cap?
No, I don't think so, not at this time.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Certainly appreciate you were willing to volunteer.
Thank you.
And we've got a number of interviews coming up, so you're welcome to stay and watch, or you're more than welcome to also get on with your day, and we will be in touch.
Thank you. I think I'll do the second one.
Thank you.
Today is actually my 45th birthday, so.
Oh my gosh,
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Here's to 45 more, and then after that, maybe I'll start to slow down. Thanks for
Take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for coming.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ms. Hoch?
Hoch.
Yes. Great. Well, thank you for joining us.
Almost no one ever does that. Oh, she's been practicing for days.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for coming in. And if you would just take a few minutes and tell us about yourself and your interest in the Mental Health Board.
Okay, sure. I'm a retired nurse, and my background was intensive care, a lot of different things, but intensive care, emergency department, and then I also did Flight for Life, and then I did an outpatient program that was cardiac rehab. And in all those roles, we had a lot of interaction with mental health clients, and so lots of interdisciplinary work, especially like in the ER, we would call it, for people who were in crisis, to have a counselor come in and evaluate them. And I was always put off by how hard it was to find any treatment for many of the people. And it's a big challenge. And our county seemed not to have any residential beds at the time. I know some of that has changed, but it was very hard for that. And also how sad it was that many of these people, because of either financial reasons or other reasons, couldn't access care that they needed. So to me, the access to care, as well as the ability to continue care, was really critical. And it's not just their own personal disability or just distress that they're dealing with, it affects the community. So they're in family units and they're in apartment buildings and they're in neighborhoods, and it impacts everybody around them. So mental health has always been an interest of mine. And was looking at the scope of what the mental health board provides and was really wowed by how many different services they provide, because it isn't just what you think of when you go mental health. It's emotional and developmental disabilities. It's people with housing crisis. It's people who are bilingual and just don't have the resources or ability to find the resources that are here in the county. So that's, to me, access is one of them, and the ability to find it and then to access it is one of the biggest barriers. So it's very important, and it's a big job.
And you do know what the mission of the mental health board is, correct? I mean, you're familiar with what they do, and
I did look at it, but I am really pretty wowed by, like I said, the breadth of it is pretty intense.
And you know the number of meetings, the times of the meetings, and you can make that commitment, so make sure that you can
I know the
attend.
date and times of the main meetings. I don't know about committees or those kinds of things and how often they come, but I'm retired, so yes, it's not an issue.
Okay, I always want to make sure volunteers know what they're getting themselves into before they do that. And again, I guess, as I said to the previous applicant, we're in one of those rare times where we have more applicants than positions that are open. So can you provide us with something that you think, segregates you from the rest of the crowd, that makes you a better applicant, that you bring or that you can bring to the board, that would give them?
Well, I want to be honest about that, because I was thinking about my strengths and about my weaknesses, and I thought to myself, well, I am a good detail person, and I'm a self-educator, and I'm a servant. But if you have a whole lot of detailed people already on the board, then you want the idea generator. You want the locomotive who drives a lot of ideas, and you don't want a whole bunch of detailed people, because we tend to process step by step, and that would maybe inhibit. So like, you need to have a balance, and so I have to say that's my gift, is my detail orientation and my desire to keep learning, but that depends if that's what you're looking for right now or not, because my most success in my career has been with people who have different dynamics, because then we play off of each other.
Well, I've looked at all the applications. There's a strong finance thread running through them. I'm looking for somebody with heart. I think we need people with heart on the mental health board who understands what happens when you're sitting in an emergency room with a person who's having a mental health breakdown, and there's no beds and there's nowhere to send them. And the family sits there for 24 hours until a social worker shows up, because we don't have crisis workers. And yeah, I mean, this has just happened to someone in my district. That's heartbreaking. You're right, they have a child at home, they couldn't get a bed, they finally placed the youth in Indiana. It took 36 hours to get that man. She stayed in the ER that time. I think that those are the stories that we tell, those human stories that compel us to reach further and work harder, because the stakes are so high. So we have a ton of number crunchers on that board, and quite frankly, I would like to see people who understand the human condition.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a perfect example of how the impact of somebody with mental health is not just to that person. It is to the whole community.
Well, and then you have
to the emergency room, and to the family, and to the...
You have somebody in the ER that's got to be managed and monitored. There's a bay that's taken up for 36 hours. You can't put somebody in there. Yeah, it's...
So fixing processes isn't like a one-size-fits-all, but looking at process, and when something like that comes up, saying, is there a way that we can fix this process? Is there a problem with the process that we have, or is it just a problem with the resources that the mental health board has access to that is harder to fix, but it still needs to be looked at?
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, I just want to thank you for coming here, and I think, you know, I saw your resume, I think you're being a little modest here. You have more skills than just details, and I'm really happy to have someone like you come and apply. I know it's not easy working in an ER. You know, it's not easy. That's where the action is, and if you can survive there, wow.
I always liked it.
I think the mental health board will be a piece of cake for you. And I really appreciate you coming with your insight, and I think that would be a great help.
Well, good, thank you. That's what I feel that I have to offer. And it's, you know, like if you already have a lot of that, then you're looking for the finance. But, you know, that, like I said, it depends on what you're really looking for, so. But I do like to learn and I do like to serve. And I've had plenty of opportunities to figure out where boundaries are too, because that's also another issue.
So,
Go ahead, Ms. White.
thank you for being a nurse for so long. I think we have the mental health side represented on the board. I think the physical health side is very important. And my sister is a nurse, and she worked in the ER, and when you talked about needing professionals there, also for the nurses, without saying too much, she was in the ER years ago when the 2 children were attacked by the dog. And they brought in professionals, and they had mandatory counseling after they had helped these kids. So I can see, you know, what you have done and what people who have helped you and how you go about growing after that, so thank you. Have you looked at any of the minutes or watched any of the board meetings or attended?
I have not. I was looking at, like I said, I looked at the Mental Health Act, and I did look at the scope of what you guys are trying to accomplish on the mental health board, but I haven't looked at the minutes yet. It was last minute that I found out about the position being open, so it was more of a matter of hurrying up and getting my resume organized to get it back out there to you guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Hendricks, did you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, great. Mr.
I want to thank you for applying, and thank you for your career as a nurse. My middle daughter Jillian is in her 2nd year. She did a year in labor and delivery, and right now she's a school nurse, and we'll see where she goes from there. So, I have great appreciation for what you've done.
It is a great profession. Lots of different places and opportunities.
Yep.
My 2 youngest sisters are nurses, RNs. Yeah, so got that special place here.
Okay, well, thank you again for coming in. We certainly appreciate your interest, and we do have a couple more interviews to go through. You're more than welcome to join us or get on with your day, and we can be in touch.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much.
What time frame are you guys looking at for making a decision?
Well, we'll make our decision today, but it goes forward to the chairman, and then ultimately it's the chairman's choice. You know, these are just recommendations that he considers, and then he'll bring those forward to the next county board meeting.
All right, wonderful. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
You guys have a wonderful day and a nice Thanksgiving.
Thank you, you too. Stay warm.
I'll try.
Yeah, really.
That's hard.
This is the third
I think I do know where I put it.
Oh, did you get it? Did you remember to get
Oh, yeah, I
it?
got it. I just,
No, this is the third person that
Thank
said
you,
they
thank
found
you.
out last minute about the application.
Well, there were a couple for the CDHG,
Yeah, I'm talking, yeah, I'm
but
including them
Mr.
in that,
Yeah.
those 2 at the top, yeah. Hey, Adam.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I have this. I'm
Oh, you don't have this?
No, I love it, thank you.
Yeah, I do have this.
Oh, he's prepared.
Love it.
All of these? Sure.
Make sure it's right there.
Oh.
Put one there. Thank you.
So, pay attention, there's going to be a test, right?
What?
I said, pay attention, there's going to be a test.
What?
I'll take.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect, no problem.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. We certainly appreciate your service and continuing to,
Thank you for having me.
your interest in continuing on.
I apologize in advance. I have a huge toothache.
Oh, no.
So
I have been there.
I'm going to see the oral surgeon next week, but just bear with me if I pause out for a
Next
second.
week?
Oh,
Yeah,
goodness.
that's what happens. So.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Clover and ginger.
Yeah, that's.
It does help.
It does help.
Well, if you could just take a couple minutes and tell us a little about yourself, your interests, and continuing to serve on the Mental Health Board.
Sure. I'm a police officer in the village of Lakeland Hills. I've been there for over 22 years now. I'm a sergeant, currently on day shift, going back to nights in January, not by choice, by assignment. During that time, I've become a drug recognition expert. There's only 4 in the county, only 150, 60-ish in the state, and that's a person that's trained to especially recognize people under the influence of alcohol and drugs, or drugs separately, which are very different. Because of that, I became involved with the Substance Abuse Coalition and been, I think, prevalent there in bringing issues to light. And that brought me to the last term of the open seats for the Mental Health Board, with bringing that overlap of substance abuse and mental health. I think I can bring a very unique perspective to the board. I see it in real time and how things work, and what is written in the law doesn't always happen with how we can provide treatment and provide assistance. So I think I have a unique perspective when it comes to that. Other than that, I live in the county. I have 2 daughters and a wife. My daughter is a senior at Prairie Ridge. We're looking at colleges now, so we're waiting on that. My other one is graduating 8th grade this year and moving on to high school, so.
Well, you've been on the board how long?
1 term, 4 years.
So you know the complexity.
It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
Scott Block did a good job of selling it, but not telling it. And I don't blame him.
Nicely stated.
I don't blame him
that.
for it. I think there's been a lot of challenges with the board, with Scott's departure and Leo's arrival, and the dynamics, everything have changed, so it's.
In what way, Adam?
I wasn't prepared for what, there's a lot of other aspects that you don't realize, and so I was told, yeah, it's about an hour a month, blah, blah. It's not, it's really not, and you have to adjust your time and commitment. You have to be committed to the organization and to the vision of what the Mental Health Board does. It's not a, it's more complex than it, it's way more complex than it leads to believe. And I think with that experience that I have, the first year it was just kind of like, what? Now I understand how to do the budget. Now I understand how that looks. I have a process, a routine, but it does take some time. It's a definite commitment.
Big learning curve.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So.
How do you, I suppose because I have you here, and you're an incumbent coming back to be a reappoint. How do you feel like this sales tax thing is going to impact the network from a board member's perspective?
Well, I mean, there's always challenges when we're changing how things are happening. The voters in McHenry County voted for this. That 1/4%, what we thought it was and what it actually is going to be are 2 different things. So we're going to have to adjust. I think that's going to be a challenge for the board itself and for the Mental Health Board staff to find better ways to spend our money and look at more efficient ways of doing things. There's always a way to make things more efficient. We have to make sure that we're looking at that broadly and saying, okay, well, we have this service here, maybe these two guys need to talk because they're very similar and they can have the same goal in mind. But that's gonna be it's a hard sell, so.
Well, they have two very different missions, those
Sure.
agencies. I mean, every agency has their unique mission, and there may be similar services, but
Absolutely.
the mission is different.
Sure, but we have to be responsible with taxpayer money, and we have to be responsible for how we're doing that.
So you hit on that, so I'm gonna make you elaborate a little bit. And you say that you talk and you look at the services, and maybe this guy could talk to this guy, and maybe they could do. Tell me how the board oversees, or appropriate verb, once the allocations are made and the grants are implemented, how does the board then ensure that the money is being used appropriately and meets the ultimate goal of that specific agency or organization?
Sure, and
It's a softball question.
I'm gonna pop it up for you here. So, I mean, we do have compliance. Karen does a great job making sure everybody's in compliance with what we're doing and everything like that. Board members have opportunities to go meet with funded agencies and see what they're doing and how they're doing it. And I think there's a lot of good discussions in the background and in the open meetings regarding what opportunities we have to look and say, this looks very similar to this, or offer other opportunities. This past year, we hired a grant writer, and that so far has been pretty successful. And it's not just for the mental health board, it's for these individual agencies too, where we are gonna have this shortfall of funding. There's always gonna be, there's the want and then there's the need of money. And I play the $10 game. If I gave everyone $10 every day, in 14 days, I come back with a 20 because I don't have change, and I expect $10 back because you get $10 every day. You're gonna get that 20, and you're like, I don't have change for it because I'm spending that money. We have to find better ways to make the most appropriate decisions for the taxpayer money and for what we're looking to do.
And do you feel, as a board member, that you have that type of communication and relationship with the agencies and the organizations that you do fund?
I think we have an opportunity to speak with them and give them those ideas. It's again, it's an individual mission, like you said, but at the same time, you have to say, well, listen, it's like when you bring your kid to the store, right? Everyone's, I want the toy. We can't get the toy. It's kind of the same thing.
Well, Adam, accept that, and I don't mean to be argumentative, we're not talking about a toy, we're talking about people's lives.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I think, I'm leaving, so I won't be on the boards. I have absolutely no skin in this game at all.
But you do.
Well, I do because I'm a community resident and I'm not gonna go away. So, I know what the waiting lists look like.
Absolutely.
I get
I'm
those
aware
calls
too.
and, yes, and so and I want to be really clear that the county board did not raise the gas tax. You said it correctly, the people voted, or somebody said, people voted for the sales tax. It was a citizen decision.
Absolutely.
Not ours. And it's unfortunate that the funds are not going to be there to do the things we need to. So I know that y'all have hard calls to make.
Absolutely. It's not a fun decision-making process.
But I want the people that are staying here to understand that when you don't fund mental health, people die. Families fall apart. People don't get sober. They lose work. The impact of untreated, unresponded mental illness is significant in our county. And I don't relish the job you have to do. But I think we talk about money and monitoring, and I want to be clear that this is about human beings, our neighbors who live in our community. And we don't talk about that enough.
That's the unhealthy component of this role, is because you have the emotional attachment, because they are people. And that's the hard part. And I can tell you in my job, when we go to these mental health crises, and, you know, I'm very understanding of the whole process, and people go, you're gonna arrest me, you're gonna arrest me. No, I don't wanna arrest you, I wanna get you help. I'm willing to put that arrest aside. Statutorily, it says I have to arrest you. I can make that decision to say, you know what, let's get you treatment, but this is what it's gonna be like, and it's not gonna be good. You're not gonna be happy with me. Families come up to you weeks later, months later, I can't believe you did that. This was great, this is actually the first step. You know, we went to a house, a 16-year-old girl had barricaded herself into her room. Okay, well, this could turn into something really bad, really fast. Oh, open the door. Let's talk. I'm gonna stand in the doorway. You're gonna be laying in the bed. That's fine. It's a different dynamic these days. It absolutely is, and we have to adjust. And I think I can bring that understanding to the board, and we'll talk about those services. It's a hard sell sometimes.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Mr. Shorten?
I just want to thank you for your service on the board, but also as a law enforcement officer. It's a profession that's been especially maligned in the past couple of years inappropriately. And I want to thank you for A, staying on, B, the way that you're speaking, is the way that you're practicing your profession is admirable. And it's something that it should be admired and not maligned.
Thank you very much.
I just like that you were an Eagle Scout.
Oh.
I'm serious. I stayed in Girl
Well,
Scouts.
and still will be. My neighbor, she has 3 sons, and he just came up to me and goes, I just got my Eagle Scout. And he goes, I understand you were an Eagle Scout. And I said, no. I said, you're always an Eagle Scout. So,
good man.
he looked at me and I'm like, and his mom just looked at me and I go, all right, well, time to fix that one. So, but yes, no, that's something that taught me a lot of things about my life, so.
And I'm a former Rockford police chaplain, and so I know exactly what you're talking about. Thank you for that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your service.
That's it, we're done?
Yeah.
I was expecting more.
Let me ask Mr.
Give us
Hendricks really
time.
quick.
Wait, ask Garrett.
Mr. Hendricks.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, all right.
There you go.
Easy peasy.
Thank you very much for your guys'
Thank you
time.
so
Thank
much
you.
for coming in.
Thank you for coming.
I was asked to do a resume and I looked at Linda's and I freaked, but I like this. I think I might do this as my template. Take it home.
I'm just gonna ask them if you specifics in mind, but what they cut though. I'm gonna go there.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me, getting back.
Well, I'm sure you pretty much know the drill, but if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in becoming a member of the Mental Health Board as moving from liaison to.
Sure, sounds good. Well, thank you all very much. Good to see familiar faces. But so, as most of you know, but for the sake of anyone listening in, I was on the county board for 8 of the last, for the last redistricting for 8 of those 10 years. And then once I was out of the county board, the chairman asked me to step into this role because of my familiarity with the county board and the inner workings there, as well as my passion for the mental health board. So even stepping back when I was on the county board, one of the things I did was I would meet with Scott Bach, who at the time was the executive director, and just see how we as a county board could help. And one of the things that came out of that was the social work program from the for the Sheriff's Department, so really connecting the mental health board with the Sheriff's Department and being able to make a model program, not only for the state. It was kind of at the tail end of when the Safety Act was being discussed and going to be implemented, that was our response to being able to control it within our county and show how a model program could really be created. So that really was really rewarding for me in the sense of mental health had always been a passion of mine, and being on the county board at the same time and being able to be at the foundation of a program like that and offer this service, which now, I mean, throughout the state, they're really looking at it as a model and showing how it can be done within the confines of what the legislature passes down to us as a county, and actually making something that's really productive and helps everybody within the county. So that kind of was a lead-in to the mental health board, and kind of even taking a step back from that. Mental health, you know, I have a lot of lived experience with mental health, which is why it was always a passion of mine. I mean, I think a lot of people have, you know, exposure to substance abuse and mental health issues, and so I'm not shy from that, you know, every aspect of what the mental health board serves has personally touched my life as well. So that kind of began my passion, and then I was able to carry it on the county board, and now it's been an honor to serve in the last year on the mental health board as the county board liaison. So really the reason I now I'm applying for the actual seat on the mental health board is, well, one of the main reasons. One, I think that it opens up an opportunity for the chairman to decide, you know, he would rather have a county board member serve in that role. I'm not sure how he wants to utilize that position. Sometimes it may be more helpful, sometimes not. But it does open up that opportunity. And then the second thing is, when we had our self-evaluation on the mental health board, one of the comments was that no one's stepped up. No new people are stepping up to fill any of the executive positions on that board. And being the liaison, I mean, I don't know if it's an official thing, but it's kind of been always an unsaid thing that the liaison really never held any sort of a role in the executive committee. And I would be willing to step up into a role if need be. I mean, as a lot of you know, I don't ever really say no. So, you know, if the opportunity arose, I would be willing to help out in that capacity if others feel that, you know, that they've served their time and wanted to move on. So that kind of drove me to think like it would probably be more appropriate for me to be on the board itself rather than the board liaison, to be able to contribute more.
Okay. Well, historically, the county board liaison co-chaired the mental health board a long time ago.
I was gonna say, that's interesting. So that, and I know before you were on the board, then it came up with the Board of Health that like the county board member wanted to be on the, you know, I don't know if it was chairing it or what role, and it was at that time a issue, and this is going back, it was years, probably in between, after your years you're talking about, but before, you know, now, and that the kind of stance was, well, it's not really appropriate for the county board member, the county board liaison to be in that role.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so.
Well, I don't know, yes, and, I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
Okay, Ms. Wagner.
So obviously you know about, you know, the financial situation and what's going on with the sales tax. So what is your opinion on how the mental health board moves forward with this?
Thank you. Yeah, I think that there's, I think we need to have a meeting and have some sort of a strategic plan, because I do think over the last, you know, even 5 years that mental health statewide, even nationwide, has really changed. And there's been a lot more attention. And I know in my day job, you know, I work for a senator, so I see the legislative aspect of it, and I see the statewide kind of momentum that's gaining, in whether it's you know, whatever area it might be in, if it's, you know, mental health or IDD, you know, there really is more of a statewide momentum. The mental health board is to address the needs of those in McHenry County that are the gaps in service. And I think what we need to really look at is what service is now being provided, or what opportunities are more even open on a statewide or even a national-wide basis. So I think, you know, hiring the grant writer is a huge thing that we did. And
pursuing opportunities like that and actually building on that, I think for every dollar you invest in a grant writer, I mean, it's proven to be probably even 100-fold or more. So, you know, really taking opportunities like that and looking what now the state, if money becomes available at the state level. I know there's a lot of discussion, you know, especially in IDD, of funding that might be opening up. So really taking a look in other areas that have changed over the last few years. I think that with the awareness comes some funding opportunities that are not just specific to McHenry County, but that McHenry County should be really utilizing and tapping into those resources as well. So and really understanding, you know, what is available. I don't know that we have a full handle on that. The grant writer has been great, you know, and really looking at other things like that would be a way to fill any gaps that may be occurring moving forward. But it actually could push us to be innovative and create even more, I think, for the mental health board.
So the police social work program, I actually encouraged the mental health board to defund it as a result in the drop in funding in the sales tax, because it is not a traditional program underlying in the Community Mental Health Act. Doesn't do treatment. I mean, they do intervention, but they don't do treatment, they don't do therapy. And while I think it's a great program, when I'm looking at, as a county board member, which I have no authority, I can't tell the mental health board what to do. I would have, in the breakdown, defunded the specialty courts and everything in order to put therapy and therapeutic intervention and groups into agencies. They chose not to do that. So Carolyn, under your tenure, the mental health board never had an increase in funding, very little. Like, we never raised it. So I don't understand how county board members can talk about the importance and value of these services and not fund them. And even you took that significant decrease of $500,000 at one point, which gutted agencies. So some of this has been created by no increase in funding at all for a significant amount of time. And now with the sales tax coming in lower than we thought, the impact is so significant on providers and the community at large. I don't know, you want to be on the board for 3 years, and I'm just going to say, I think that previous actions of the board have created this dilemma for the mental health board. So if you're on this board and you want to bring leadership to the executive committee, I want to know how you will bring the funding where it needs to be. And it's more than a grant writer.
No, and I agree with that. And I think what has actually, one component of that, and let me just say, I've been on the board for a year. So, you know, going back, I mean, I can go back and tell you really fundamentally what the issue was with the cuts in funding, and it was the fact that, you know, there was this cut 10 that was, you know, that everyone in the county experienced. It's the exact reason why you guys were talking about increasing this year. I mean, it's the exact same problem existed. You know, this random cut 10 from every single service without really evaluating was fundamentally the problem. I mean, let's be honest here. So, but it's fine. It challenged us all. I think that everyone has rose to the challenge. I think that we needed to be creative and innovative. And I look at it as an opportunity and not a negative. And so we are in this position. I also want to make it, you know, you say that the needs are there. The needs are there. The needs will always be there. And the needs will always be endless. I mean, there is going to be a situation where somebody needs more, always.
I'm going to disagree with you to a limit. Because when I was a provider in the network, we never had these kind of waiting lists. Mm-hmm. Never. We would call for therapy. Maybe it would be 3 weeks till you saw a therapist. We never did telehealth for psychiatry when there was a mental health crisis. That did not exist for like 20 years.
But you have to also take into account, you've had a pandemic since then. And I mean, that pandemic has created not only the pandemic, but the awareness. I mean, we have been advocating to remove the stigma of mental health for years. We have done that. That's great that we have done that. I mean, I can sit up here and say, you know, mental health has affected my family. Mental health has affected me personally. I mean, and it's not a problem to say that anymore. But then
what do you now do? You need more services. I mean, so that's exactly, you're right, but the reason that there's a wait list is because we have asked people to step up and embrace this and actually, get help that they need because it's okay. And it's so as long as we keep doing that, that need is going to be there. I mean, that need is going to be there.
So my concern is that you would be willing to be on an executive team for the mental health board. And while I really appreciate looking at the dollars and being transparent and being efficient, I'm committed to services. Like I know that the mental health board does a great job of using their money well, using their resources well. And I'm committed to getting them more money,
Well, I think though you have to take a step back from there. I mean, we do provide a great, well, I'll tell you why. Because, fundamentally, and I even think that our executive director would agree with this point of we really need to, in that strategy, in a strategic plan that I was talking about, from a fiscal strategic plan, we need to look at our mission statement. I mean, we need to look at, are the programs that we're providing true to our mission statement? And if we don't feel like they fit within our mission statement, we need to help advocate on behalf of those programs to find where they do fit within our community. And I think that the evolution of the social work program was a perfect example of that. The mental health board knew it didn't fully fall under the mental health board, but it was a collaboration with the sheriff's department. So now how can we find someone to partner with to actually share in that, to actually be part of the solution? So we need to find more of those opportunities. And I can give you an example on that. We fund Work Corps, which is a phenomenal organization. I mean, they do great work. But it has been, is this an area of mental health? And I would think that's maybe even a more questionable area of mental health, especially because one of the things they asked for this year was a skate park for youth, which is an awesome project. I mean, it would be wonderful if the community had this project. But is the mental health board the right place for that? We chose to not fund it. But an opportunity that there is maybe when we come across, is there another organization that could fund this? So we could actually help facilitate that connection and that collaboration and get that to come to fruition just due to resources that we may have, and not money. And so kind of going back to that core mission, evaluating, okay, what really falls under within our core mission, or where can we help advocate on behalf of those that fall outside of that core mission and actually get them the funding, additional funding even, and have their projects, their services be completed. So, and then open up the funding that we do provide to those organizations that maybe can allocate elsewhere, and that would open it up for direct services like you're talking about.
So during the last budget cycle, you made a public comment that you thought the $525,000 we were going to allocate was adequate. Don't quote me on that figure.
It was 525. It's
when
branded.
the mental health board said they needed 2.5 million. So you were liaison at the time.
Right. No, and I will say, I will correct on what I said. I said we can still do good work with that money.
Well,
I said there is always we could have spent 2.5 million. We could have. I mean, we could have. But but we did a lot of good work this last year with 525,000.
Okay, we're going to just disagree here.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, because I think it's a huge missing. And if you're a member of that board, and in executive, and the board makes a decision, it's kind of like when the board votes on something, this is the county board. The county board votes on it, it's my vote, I fall in line. I wouldn't get up publicly and make a contradictory, I might just be quiet.
Well, first of all, in my defense, I just joined that board, so I didn't even have a vote in that.
No, but you did get up in public comment, and it had influence and impact on people. And as a member of the mental health board, how will you not do that if the board votes a certain way?
I acknowledge that the board voted that way, and I think it's anyone's right. I mean, it's our First Amendment right, and I still will stick by that. It's my First Amendment right to get up during public comment and say what I personally feel.
Yeah,
and I think that's as anybody.
Well, no, that's absolutely not how I've been mentored to I wouldn't do that. And I've not done that in my tenure. And so that concerns me. But thank you for answering the question.
Mr. Shorten, anything? Mr. Hendricks?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, Carolyn, I truly appreciate you coming in and your willingness to continue serving. You've been a great asset, county board and on the mental health board. So thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, thank you. You guys have a good day. Have a great Thanksgiving.
You too. You too. All right, help me keep it reined in. Then help me keep it reined in.
Yeah, we will. It's not just, nothing was 9:50, it's 10:50.
Good morning.
Good morning. It is still morning.
Sorry we're late.
I started math plenty times late.
Well, thank you for coming in. We certainly appreciate it. If you could just take a couple minutes and tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in serving on the mental health board.
Jim Swarthout. Got the best way to start it, 26 years in recovery. I believe in the 12-step program, but I believe in smart recovery. I think there's no wrong way to joy, or no wrong way, no wrong door to help people in mental health. Having done treatment 3 times in my life and finding a greater sense of joy, and certainly have an extensive clinical background in addiction and mental health. In MSW, I have the largest certification as a certified addictions counselor, advanced addiction counselor. I have certification in national Pennsylvania on relapse and intervention, as well as I do invitational intervention. I just retired. I was on the mental health board many years ago and enjoyed that. And certainly if I could stop real quickly and say congratulations. And I'm deeply grateful to the county board, the mental health board, for what you've done over the years. I see people constantly that are affected and have greater joy because of what you've done in this county for over the years. I had a dinner last night with a young lady who was in recovery, primarily because she had gone to a program in this county right now. And because of what you've done, and I mean that with everybody, what you've all done, you brought greater joy to her life, the one lady that I met last night. I see people like that constantly in this county. I didn't grow up here, but I served as a priest in this county, met for many years, and still do periodically. Let's see what else. I have 71 nieces and nephews, no children, and Christmas is expensive, so we're preparing for that, and there'll be probably 35 around the table on Thursday afternoon. In my retirement, I guess is the best way to put it, I still have too much passion in the field of mental health and addiction. And in any way that I can be of influence to you or to others in this county or the state, or actually nationally, I've done national presentations in alcohol and drug addiction, and mental health issue. I believe in constantly recalibrating and smooth and transitional goals in the field of addiction and mental health. It changes constantly. Whenever you think you got it figured out, watch somebody else open up a new door. And I think that that's what we always need to be, is leaning forward to help people find joy in their life. Now that you got to the homily.
Can you talk about your relationships with hospitals?
I was the director of addiction and behavioral health medicine, external relationship for Ascension hospitals. At one time, we had 17 hospitals in the Chicago metro area. Painfully, 7 of those just been sold off. My work as an administrator with them was to help coordinate finances, lean forward, and help enhance life. So I was the director of that program for about 5 years, and I still sit on that board, matter of fact. So I still sit on the Ascension Health Board, mental health board for them as well, foundation, as well as administratively. So we're constantly, we were a $5 billion operation, had the 5th largest behavioral health hospital in this country. Really, it's in the States, whether you know that or not. It's the 5th largest behavioral health hospital system in this country. So having the awareness of what's going on in the area of addiction, behavioral health, eating disorders, autism, just the whole gamut, I was very aware of how that financial integration and how the metrics and evidence-based understanding, evidence-based work, understanding clinical as well as outcomes. So it was a very broad experience at the hospitals. Certainly my work with, or humbled in my work in addiction, doing clinical work there every once in a while. I don't do that anymore. It's, as I had said, when I retired, my niece asked me simply, so Uncle Jimmy, so if somebody's gonna ask you for help, calls you for help, are you going to still help them? I said, of course I am. But you're going to do it for free now? How stupid are you? And so that's exactly the right answer. So I have a passion to help people have a sense of joy back in their lives. And that just, many people, it's like I say, in my recovery, my addiction wakes up 10 minutes in the morning before I get up, goes to bed 10 minutes before I go to bed at night. It's always sitting here, and I promise you, my brothers and sisters, that people with addiction, mental health issues, autism issues, or struggles in their health, in their lives, have a deep sense of self-loathing. Why do I do the things I don't want to do? And our role, as you have done in the past, is to help them to find an avenue to greater joy. And so I feel deeply passionate, even in my old age, or I would say I'm in my 4th quarter of life, but not in the red zone. I still got time left. So I find joy in helping people get shining eyes. I call it shining eyes. This young gal last night, when I first met her, probably a year ago, at Good Shepherd Hospital, OD, second time. And to see her last night, having shining eyes. Let me share shining eyes. People want to give life back, and they give it back to you. I saw shining eyes in her last night that gives me tingles, even now. But when I first met her in the emergency room at Good Shepherd, in her second overdose, going to 12-step programs.
So Reverend Jim, I usually do the first thing about, are you familiar with the mission? Have you looked at the meetings? But you've served.
Oh, yes.
So there's, I mean, there may be some changes, but I'm not going to ask you that because you've served. I also ask kind of sort of what skill set you bring to the table that elevates you from the rest of the candidates. I think you've answered, you've answered that. I just don't want to treat you differently than I did any of the other candidates.
Please.
But I think you've done, you've answered all the questions that I would normally have asked.
Okay.
And thank you for your service. I actually met you when you were serving on the mental health board. That's how we met. And I'm appreciative for all the, just the other day. I'm really appreciative of all the volunteerism that you've done, diaper bank, et cetera. And I'm pleased that you are back.
Yeah, the diaper bank, I don't know if you were aware of the diaper bank. Yes, the diaper bank it started right here. You got to know what you started right in this county.
St. Paul's.
St. Paul's and
Church. That's correct.
Is now a national situation. I was just at the National Symposium for the Diaper Bank in Chicago about a month ago. There are over 400 diaper banks in this country because what you folks believed in that started right here. And I say that often because what we did here is develop partnerships. So I don't know if you're aware of it, but I had a gal with her infant daughter come to me to the parish, We had a little food pantry at that time, and I said, I have diapers in the back, and she says to me, Father Jim, I can only afford 2 diapers a day. I clean them out, put it back on her. So that's a true story. And I said, what about WIC, women, infant, or Medicaid? And it didn't cover that. It doesn't cover
diapers.
Paper products didn't cover that. And so I went to the Google machine and I found a diaper bank in New Haven, Connecticut. Another one in Phoenix, Arizona. I called them. I said, what do you do? Partnerships. Again, I want to go back to your partnerships. It's recalibrating in a way. Knowledge that we have and finding other knowledge outside of our own arena. But sometimes we silo too much. And I believe in developing those partnerships. And so then I called and I found out what they did. And basically what they did is it was like a food pantry. People come to them for diapers and they give them out. I thought if I had everybody coming, if I opened up that door for diapers, it would be crazy. So I came up with the concept that basically you go to social service agencies. We got the diapers and then you develop contracts to the social service agencies. Those agencies come back and then you give them out. That concept now has gone to over 400 diaper banks in this country. It's about partnerships, recalibrating the work to offer hope to people.
Thank you. So, thank you.
Please.
I don't need to go to church on Sunday because I'm so inspired. First of all, I don't think that counts. We're going to church, so that's okay. Thank you for your comments about joy. I think that is so important. So many times people think about getting through what they're getting through and just surviving. And I think that's so important that we concentrate on joy. Because nobody wants to go through life just wading through the mud. They want to have joy in their life. So I think that's a perfect way to talk about it.
We have to pass it on.
Yes.
So in the 12-step program, it's trust God, clean house, and the most important piece is to help others. You got to give it away.
Yes.
If I don't give it away, it dies in me. All right? And I think that when you go to a 12-step meeting or you go to a NAMI meeting and you see the parents or the amount of parents and people that find collaboration and connection with other people, and then all of a sudden it's like, you're not the only one.
Right.
And it's that partnership, it's those relationships that allow for all of us to have a greater sense of connection to the community and to ourselves and to each other.
And what you just said is exactly what I believe the mental health board needs.
Yes.
I mean, the stuff, partnership, collaboration, working together, especially in a time now where people are so divisive and are stuck in their ways, or this is the solution. I think we need to work together. And so, thank you.
Our purpose is not so much to preserve the past, but to change the present for the good of the future. That's what it's all about. I don't have a clue what the next 10 or 30 years, hopefully my mother's 94, so I keep going. My family gets another 15 or 20 years with me, good luck. And the whole idea is that people have a right to have joy, to fill the hole in their soul in some ways, and to have a sense of hope and happiness to give it away. Gotta do it. You do that in the county. Peter does that. And all of you do that. Because you can't just look on the strategic plan right now, but how are we going to move it forward? My father was a mayor of Lake Forest. I was brought up in government in so many ways. My brother's on the North Shore Sanitary District for the county in Lake County for the North Shore Sanitary District. And always when we gather around the table, we're always looking forward. It can't be about me. It's got to be about the next generation. I just so believe that. And certainly our metrics in mental health and addiction has evolved over time, and it will continue to evolve. And we can't be stifled, and this is the only way. I always get a kick out of people say, we've never done that before. And when people say, we've never done that before, I go, how exciting is that? Right. You know, instead of people saying, oh, yeah, how exciting, somebody's come up with a new concept.
Thank you so much
for
coming in, Reverend. No,
it's perfect,
it is
Jim, but we are going to cut you off.
Yeah,
okay,
inspiring.
Before you go, I'd like to say thank you for coming, and I really hope that you will be on the board.
Well, thank you for your service.
We need people like you, especially people who can remember when we did have inpatient care here
Yeah.
for mental health in the
Yeah.
county.
Well, thank you for what you do too, please. And it's not quite 12 o'clock, but Thanksgiving's around the corner and I got a lot of shopping to do.
Thank you for taking the time.
Okay, everybody stay happy. It's good to see people I haven't seen for a long time, so thank you so much. Yeah, yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
I wanted to say that, but it was so bad.
I wanted to come to my Thanksgiving.
Stay happy.
Yeah, right.
Oh, just stop by and say grace.
Except you wouldn't eat and everything would get cold.
Yeah.
I
Just
just
kind of like cut it off.
So,
Very inspiring though.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to 5.10. So deliberation and selection for CDHG. We've got 5
Robert Grammer,
positions.
Richard Adamson.
One is a shorter position,
Okay.
ending in December of 26. We want to have a short discussion. It seems like so long ago.
I again,
Heard it from everybody,
I'll just ask, there's been no other applicants. Kathy, have there been anything that came in after the closing? No.
No.
So I would ask, because he's a known quantity for no other reason whatsoever, is that he's already served, and we know that he's committed to coming to the meetings, and he's been an asset, according to the chair. So I would just say that we obviously recommend all of the interviewees, as well as Mr. Grammer, to the chair. And I am hesitant to say who should take the shorter term, but I don't believe that it should be Rob or Sue or Richard who are returning after having served. So I would say it should be one of the two newer applicants, but.
Well, I'll stick my foot out there and say,
So
we
Scott
all
has a
had
good
little-
idea. He's putting them up on the board. Thank you for that,
we all
Scott.
had a little
Scott
bit
is
of
fulfilling his
reservation
destiny here.
with the word tinker. So I'm thinking maybe we should make Ted Shew the shorter term, just so he can have the opportunity to view it and see it, and then if he likes it, he can reapply.
I thought
at
we
the end of
had,
2026.
I thought we had one too many. Do we have one too many applicants
I
or
have
just?
no
No,
issue.
not mental health board, no, this one, there were 4
Okay.
applicants, 5
Four,
positions.
I said, I have no issue with that. I know Ted, I'm sure that he'll mold in accordingly, and in 2 years when he's up, and for reappointment, I don't think it's an issue.
Is that a motion and a second?
Sure.
Sounds like it.
I'm not going to support Ted or Kristina in either one of them. I don't think so. This is an important commission, and I would rather put really strongly informed, that they didn't look at minutes, that they came in at the last. I mean, this is important, and so I'm so good with Robert Grammer, Richard Adamson, and Sue, but I don't feel strongly about Theodore and Kristina. I just don't. And I don't think we should. I don't want to appoint people just because we have to fill a hole. I'd rather put the application out and have you all look at more qualified, do a little work. This is an important commission, and that's just mine.
We've had an open position, this shorter term has been an open position for 2 years, so.
Maybe we have to do some specific recruiting.
I think that's what you're seeing here, a specific
Seriously,
recruiting.
Ted and
I agree with Lou, I think.
Kristina just got the application last month.
Let's all talk.
Well, I'm going to make a comment and then make a suggestion. You and I have had this conversation, so this isn't new. I also understand how, in many instances, we want people to be better prepared, know what they're getting into, which is why I ask all those questions. On the other hand, I will tell you, I also look at this as an opportunity to take people who do not know how government works and educate them. And they become sometimes some of our strongest advocates because they learn that every preconceived notion they had when they came in is not in fact true. So on that perspective, I always think that there's then a responsibility, and I look at Tracy, and I'll talk to Larry as board members to ensure that that kind of education and orientation is offered those individuals. So that comment, I would suggest that maybe we break the question apart and you make a motion to approve the 3 that we know there's basically unanimous consent on, and then do another motion for the other 2 and see where we end up on that.
That's fine. I'll amend my motion just to approve Robert, Richard, and Sue.
I'll second.
2027 expiring term. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
So the next 2 openings, we have one.
I'll make a motion for Kristina to take the term that expires on December 27th and put forward Mr. Shew for the position that expires on December 15, 2026.
Can we take both those separate?
Sure.
So is it one,
If you want to do
now
that,
and one for
or you don't care?
I don't,
I mean, ultimately, it's up to.
I'll do them separately, that's fine. So I'll amend my motion to move forward Kristina Paskey for the term that expires December 15th of 2027.
I'll second. Gloria, did you second that originally? I'll second it. For
no,
Kristina.
I did not.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
Aye.
I'm assuming that was in favor. So any against? Okay, motion to move Kristina on.
And then
And
I'll
then-
put
No
forward-
against that?
So.
No against?
No, again, right, yes.
So do we need,
So we'll need a motion to,
do we need to vote on the original motion that's been amended?
No, I
You didn't amend it, you made a new motion.
Yeah.
And then I'll make a motion to put forward Mr. Shew for the term that expires December 15, 2026.
I'll second that.
Ms. Altough seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
I think you should do a roll call.
Yeah.
Roll call, all right, we'll do a roll call.
Do we have discussion?
We've discussed it,
Yeah.
and his, I mean, do you want to have discussion?
I don't think Mr. Shew is the best candidate for this position. I will be voting no. Now we can vote.
Okay, then we will do a roll call.
Nanoff,
No.
Shorten,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Wagner,
No.
Ness,
No.
Altough,
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. Routine consent agenda. Wow.
No,
we have deliberation of mental health board. More
Sorry.
discussion.
Good try, Tracy.
I'm tired.
Can I have a point of order?
Well, I did it all
Okay.
nighter.
I mean, we'll have discussion, and I'm struggling. Do you know, is there a requirement that we can only send, because there's only 3 vacancies, that we can only send 3 people to the chairman for consideration? Or even though there's only 3 vacancies, can we say these are really good candidates and go beyond 3?
Well, ultimately, it's the chairman's appointment.
I understand that.
Your recommendation is moving forward. Typically, it's been matched 1-to-1. But if you have other candidates and you want the chairman to ultimately decide which one, he can do
There's
that.
no requirement that
There's no
says that we
requirement.
can only send,
Right.
thank you, that's all I needed. Okay.
So one other question, can we send a recommendation for the 3 and then a recommendation for the liaison?
I'm not sure how the liaison,
I don't think that's in our
Yeah.
purview.
No, the liaison won't
Yeah,
even
I
come
don't,
here.
yeah, I don't think that's in our purview.
Okay,
It's outside of our lane.
That comes from the chair, right?
Huh?
Yeah, directly.
As do all of these, but we at least have the opportunity to make recommendations to him to consider.
Mr. Shorten.
I'd like to make a motion putting forward Linda Hoch, Adam Carson, and Carolyn Schofield for the open positions to the mental health board.
Can you repeat that, please?
Linda Hoch, Adam Carson, and Carolyn Schofield.
There are a second.
I'd like to include Father Jim, Reverend Jim.
I
I
will
did
second
too.
it and we can have discussion.
There you go.
Was there a second?
I will.
Thank you.
So the new law is that the mental health board is allowed to give us recommendations of who they would like to have on their board. So I would just like to take this opportunity to ask, do you have recommendations? Okay, because that's something we need to take into consideration.
We definitely would like Jimmy
Yeah.
on our board. I mean, he's got the history, he's got the passion.
I've worked with him, I've known him probably for 40 years on the Rotary and on the mental health board. He really does have the passion, and that's what we need. And I really liked Linda Hoch.
Linda?
Linda?
Chair, I could not hear her recommendation.
I think they were
Jim
Linda,
and
Adam, and
Linda.
Father Jim.
Did you say Adam?
Did you say Adam? No?
I
We're
said
at
two.
Father
Okay,
Jim
sorry, I
and Linda.
apologize.
And then is there a third you would prefer to see?
Adam and
Since they're
Carolyn.
both on the board, we probably would let you guys make that decision.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, we let you make that decision.
Thank you.
But the other two, I personally think would make great additions to our board. We both have heart development, and we worked in mental health.
Yeah.
We need people like that.
And I don't know Linda, but boy, she sure came across strongly.
Yeah,
And you
absolutely.
can see in the information that we had given you that those are the professions that we're missing, that we'd like to have on our board.
Absolutely.
Personally, I think Carolyn she's the only one who's been on the county board. And I would like to see her continue as liaison, which means she does not have to be on the board. So if we put 3 people forward, then Carolyn can still be the liaison, and I'm sure the chair would still approve of that. So she would still be there, she would still have a voice.
If we get a new person on the board, we'd be able to expand community involvement in the mental health board with Linda and Jim, which is what we talk about all the time.
Okay. Ms. Altoff.
We'll throw it out there. I think Ms. Schofield was actually recommended to apply for the position on the board by many individuals who saw that as a value, again, for somebody on the executive committee. And I mean, I love Reverend Jim. I mean, I do. So that's why I asked the question. I think they're all extraordinarily qualified. And I know that the chairman would like Ms. Schofield to be a member of the board as opposed to a liaison. So I'm reluctant to assume he'd keep her as liaison. So I just think that even though there's 3 openings, I would prefer to send all 4 of those applicants and say, you've got quality people here. Make a decision, and then maybe the decision is his to keep Carolyn as a liaison. But it's just a thought.
So here's the thing. I have been taught about my lane repeatedly for 2 years. I've also been taught that when the county board votes, we articulate the vote of the full board. And I do that. So when municipalities have wanted to drag me in, I've said, no, this is the county has voted, whether I agree with it or not. And I find I'm concerned that Ms. Schofield, in her public comment, it's a problem for me that she made public comment contrary to the board's vote on the 2.5 million. And so let's just say this. if the chair wants her as a member of this board, and he's the chair, then that will happen, and then our vote is irrelevant. That's how I feel. And so I don't think, in addition, Carolyn has a long and lengthy resume about, she's done a remarkable job. She's done a lot of work to really be acknowledged for that. I'd like to allow other people to have the opportunity to step up into some of those spaces and grow our network in the community.
Connie, did you?
I was just gonna say, she is gonna be liaison until January 1st anyway. I mean, Carolyn, because these new positions start in January. Who's ever picked starts in January. That's all.
I think she wants a little more than that, though.
Well, I'm just throwing that out.
I'm not arguing, and your comments are valid and credible, and they're yours, and.
Thank you.
No, I just want to make the nuance. When you are taught that you take a position, when you speak on behalf of a board or an organization, your job is to promote majority vote. You have every right, however, as an individual to stand in front of a group and say, I didn't agree with that, or I believe this. You parse that.
I get that.
Okay. Well, I just want to make clear.
And it was in the midst of a heated debate, which we didn't give the mental health board the money they needed again.
Understood. I'm not arguing. I'm telling you the difference of the parsing between.
I get that.
Okay.
But, you know, Pam, she was speaking on behalf of the mental
board.
health board, not,
I don't recall that,
not
but
on her own.
I'm not arguing.
Not on her own.
Making.
At the cow.
She was a similar.
So, and I don't mean to disparage her. She's a valuable person and has done so much in the county, but I do think she has not represented the mental health board as they have been wanted to be represented to our board. And in a position like that, it's not really about your personal opinion. It's about representing the other board. And so as a liaison position, she was not correctly representing the mental health board, what's going to happen when she's on the board. She's a lovely person. I think she would be good to continue as the liaison, but give somebody else a chance to be a voting member.
As liaison, she is a voting member.
She is, right.
So let's not forget that.
Mr. Short is liaison.
She's a voting member.
With all due respect, the advice that we're given when we're orientated is to, once the vote is made, the vote is made. But we do live in a free society, and anyone, whether they're coming up representing a board or representing themselves, has that freedom of speech. And that advice that we're given during orientation is advice. There's a lot of should, may, no definitives in our board rules. So anyone can make the decision that they want. I've known Carolyn for a long time. I've served on a work group related to township consolidation, where at the end of the day, we were on opposite sides of the vote. I have absolutely no qualms about putting her forward as a board member on the mental health board. And I certainly reserve her right as an individual to have a different point of view. At this point,
Okay, there is a right as an individual, but when you're in a position that you're representing a whole nother board or a whole nother committee, you have a responsibility to accurately represent them. And there are points when you go and talk that it's one thing there needs to be a separation and a clarity of where the opinion is coming from. And I don't think that has been clear.
Well, that evening, it was very much clear. She came and she spoke on behalf of the mental health board. That's what she said. I'm here to speak on behalf of the mental health board.
So here's the other thing. I've observed Carolyn in meetings at the mental health board. I've attended meetings. She is contentious and argumentative with the chair and the executive director when she's had a different opinion. It's not that I think that you can't have a different opinion, of course you can. But I also think she's only been on the board for a short period of time as the liaison. This is it's complicated. And so look, we're gonna take this vote, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna lose. I'm just gonna say it, because I am not voting for Carolyn Schofield. You will vote for her, she will get on the board for 3 years, and we are going to stick them with that kind of an attitude, contentious, and maybe she'll come along like Pam says, and she'll find a way to be very cooperative and aligned with them. But it's clear that the Mental Health Board does not want Carolyn for 3 years on their board. They've said that, because they don't support her in this application. We're not gonna listen to them, you're gonna listen to the chair, so let's just vote and move on. Because I don't believe in I'm not voting for Carolyn because I want to see Linda and Jim Swarthout on the Mental Health Board.
I've seen the contention also. Yes.
I'm sorry, to clarify, who are the people under consideration motion?
This motion is for Linda Hoch, Adam Carson, and Carolyn Schofield.
Okay, thank you.
What happened to Jim? Jim?
Well, those are for the.
That was not in the original motion that Mr. Shorten made, and that's why we're having this discussion.
Because we'd like to acknowledge Jim.
So if we take those 3, we would only have 2
We've
left.
had a fair discussion. I think we know where everyone stands. I'd like to call the question.
Should we do a roll?
Do you want to separate them out, or you want to keep those 3?
Keep those 3.
All right, how about a roll call?
I would suggest
Excuse
people
me,
vote no if they would rather have other
Can you give
people.
us some clarification on what we're voting for here?
There's a motion by Shorten and second by Von Bergen for Hoch, Carson, and Schofield.
Okay, so.
If we want to
So
continue
those 3 you just pointed to, Linda, Adam, and Carolyn.
If you want to
Okay, and
continue
then
the
how many do
conversation,
we,
vote no.
and then how many do we have left?
That's it.
That's it, there's 3 openings, we're sending
got it,
3.
got it.
I still will suggest that we send 4, but that's, there's a motion.
And
Question's been called.
Remember
Question's
that
been called.
they recommend whoever is worth out.
Let's take a roll call.
He's out. He would be out,
out?
and,
We have
and
to vote
Linda.
this motion down in order to get Jim Swarthout back on the list.
Ready?
Van Hoff,
No.
Shorten,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Wagner,
No.
Ness,
No.
Althoff,
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes.
I think that's a huge mistake.
Do we want to mention the Reverend as?
I don't want to mention Jim at all.
I know that again, the chairman watches these, he's heard the conversation, I don't think we need to do anything.
So I don't even know why we voted, quite frankly. Why we had the discussion. The chairman gets what the chairman wants, no matter what we think.
Well, ultimately, that's what it boils down to
Sure,
anyway.
absolutely.
I think it's a healthy discussion and we need to have interviews.
It's for the public as well.
Yes.
What happens once the board makes a decision on the
I got it, Mike. But I think you passed up an incredibly valuable candidate. You did not listen to the Mental Health Board's recommendation, which by law, they have a right to make.
And they made them.
They made them.
Thank you. I'm leaving.
Leave them right on the agenda.
I'm leaving.
I lose.
Okay. Routine consent agenda. Resolution authorizing emergency appropriation of $87,000 for comprehensive health protection grant funding.
I'll make that motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second.
Mr. Shorten seconds. Get a roll call, please.
Whitener,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Van Hoff,
Yes.
Shorten,
Yes.
Altough,
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes. Moving on to old business. Any old business?
There is none.
We have no presentations. Oh, we have another side here. Reports. We have the mental health board funding allocation.
Long morning
Welcome.
already, thank you. I put together a few things. You asked me to come back. And again, we were going into our, we went into this whole budget process much differently up until about when we found out 6 weeks ago or so. But these are the allocations that we made this past year. Thank you. So that's a follow-up there.
Where did you find, Leo, that you really ended up deciding to kind of cut back because of the shortfall?
Yeah, so what happened was, I received, a week before our allocations decisions, we got the distribution information that showed us that we were, showed us that we had about $805,000 versus the $1 million that we had expected. And I had contacted Carrie, and that's when she said, well, it's got to be a discrepancy because it should be in between the other two. The Illinois Department of Revenue should be the ones to clear that up. Why don't you, contact them? So it was my first contact with them, and within a few hours of my contact, finally getting him to understand what I was saying, he verified that we will never be between those two tax features because ours didn't have the vehicle tax and some other things. And he said, why didn't somebody get an estimate from the Illinois Department of Revenue? And I couldn't answer that, and I asked, can I have that? And again, the document I had in front of you is what he emailed to me, and then he said he would officially mail it in later, but he emailed it to me immediately, which I appreciated, and that's where, I quickly analyzed that we would be at about $10 million and versus the 12 to 14 that, the county board was stating we would have. So we had to pivot real quickly. Our allocation decisions were a week later, talked to our, board president. We had the discussion, had a special meeting, had the discussion regarding, where we were to go further, that we really did need to reduce our budget because we were going to be using our reserves for the remaining part of our budget. So originally, our budget was going to be closer, over 14 million, and we reduced it to 12 million, which again is so different than how we've done our budget. In the past, the way the mental health board has done the budget is, for example, 10.98 million, which we were very happy to get that additional, 27,000 last year. So we were at 10.98. That's how we start our budget. 10.98, that's the levy. And then we look at our administrative expenses that we think we're gonna have, and then that leaves what we have for client services. So then that's when we know we have to allocate for the NOFA. So in doing our fiscal year 25 budget, we had no idea what it was gonna be, but we were estimating it would be the 12 million. So that's what we originally had put in our budget. So we've never done a budget above our levy, like we were, as we're doing for fiscal year 25. So fiscal year 25, we have a budget that's above our levy that we're subsidizing with our fund balance. So we're just in a a more difficult, position at this point than we have been. So, I did put out, a few things in one of the documents stating, I don't think I passed
Leo,
this one.
I'm not, you've done a phenomenal job in explaining exactly where we sit with the, miscalculation. So my question is, can you also, just for clarity, indicate what you like to have in your fund balance, what the amount typically is that you try and carry over? And again, I understand that you kind of look at that at administrative costs at the end of the fiscal year to see if there's additional funds available to provide some of our, shouldn't use that word twice, to give to some of our providers. But also, outside of that question, also tell me where the opioid money falls in to all of the calculations, as well as the kind of overlap that we're gonna have of some sales tax dollar collection, as well as property tax collection. My understanding is that there's, what is it, 4 months?
Yeah, of just sales tax.
5 months. 5 months.
Of sales tax.
And property tax.
No, the property tax we use our property taxes in the same, the mental health board is
No,
never.
I mean you're receiving, not that you budgeted, that you're receiving both of those pots of funds for 5 months.
Right, but the property taxes we're utilizing, so really the only thing above and beyond is the sales tax.
No, I understand, but.
That was something you knew about.
Yeah.
Right.
We knew it was coming.
And
plus-
anticipate.
Yeah,
I
so-
just.
Sure,
Yeah.
so if you look at,
There was one big backup.
the document here, the back side of it where it says McKinney County Mental Health Board, this was what we presented at the Finance Committee. I added a few things at the bottom regarding projections, but as you see, we currently, because we keep 5 months of fund balance for reserve.
Which is good accounting practice, right?
Which is, it's part of our policy, so we keep that. So that 5 months is the reserve that is started up there. Then we put in our fiscal year budget, 1,900 of fund balance. So that leaves little over 3,500 in fund balance. When you look at our projections, we will, in maintaining our current level funding for the providers with maybe a COLA increase. I put a COLA increase, we didn't do that this year. We totally flat funded all the providers, so there was no increase. But if we tried to do an increase, we could sustain our budget for the next 2 fiscal years without having to make cuts. But then we're gonna have to make cuts. But one of the things that, I had my laptop up, one of the things that, and I could show you, but what I'm really concerned about is what people, we have been working on a deficit over the years of flat funding when demands and costs have only increased. It's put providers in their programs. People don't realize the mental health board is a little unique in that we are funding programs year over year that don't have any other billable sources, that aren't funded by the state. They're programs that wouldn't exist. So it's somewhat like at the county program of the county funding departments. It's the same thing. It's not that there's a new thing. Yes, there's new grants that come up, but there's sustainable programs that we are funding. We're making that decision because they're important in the community and they wouldn't exist without our funding. These programs have not gotten any increases and the wait lists have continued and we're not meeting that capacity. So when I looked at, analyzed for fiscal year 25, the capacity needs of our providers to what we're at right now, fiscal year 25, we were at a deficit of $2.9 million of being able to meet their capacity. It's not, and that's not even new programming, it's not new programs, it's not new agencies, it's not entertaining all of that. It's those current programs that we're not meeting their capacity. That's why there's wait lists.
Sorry to interrupt, but do you know the current wait list and average, the number of wait lists and the average days of waiting till that they get served?
I don't have that right in front of me, but you got that information in your November packet of the county board of some of the wait lists that was part of our that was part of our report is the wait list there. So there are the wait lists that are continuing to grow. So that's the piece, is that we're continuing not to meet that capacity. And in my estimate, the fiscal year 25 budget could have easily been $15 million. We could have easily had a $15 million budget in just meeting these programs. It's just like the departments here, their capacities that they're either not building, having to try to find funding elsewhere, which many are not. I mean, the providers can tell you the story, right? The providers can tell you stories, and that's where, you know, I put in next steps. I don't know what the next steps are. You know, I know some of the providers asked, could they come here today? And I said, you know, it's going to be a long meeting. There's going to be a lot of interviews. I said, let me ask the county board how they would like to proceed, because some of them would like to come in and let you know, but I think you've heard that. I don't, you know, I think you've heard their stories. You've known the issues. We're in a greater crisis today. You know, we won't meet the 10.98 levy that we have today until 2028 on the sales tax. I mean, so, you know, so we are in a greater crisis than we were when we came to you, you know, 2 years ago, you know, asking for assistance.
And at that point, I remember the wait list was 211 people long, and the average wait time for service was 45 days. So it's worse now then.
There's been some improvements, but yes, there's greater wait lists in other areas as well. So, you know, it puts us just in a really tough position of, you know, where to move forward and how to move forward. And I know even our network has asked, you know, should we get a task force together of, you know, county board members, providers? And I said, yeah, we can bring that up, but I'm not sure, we know what the answer is. I mean, there's only one way to give us more sustainable funding. Well, there's a few ways, but, you know, the decision has got to be the county board's decision. It can't be, you know, our mental health board can't go up for a referendum on our own. It's got to be a county board decision. So I really don't know what the next steps are, and that's what I'm here asking you all, and what you believe our next steps are.
Now, for the next steps, as directed by Finance Committee, we're going to take a look at this and work with Leonetta and her staff. We can kind of ask the board's patience in getting through our own budget, and emailing with Gary Weiss this morning to kind of get going on this. I'm anxious to have that opportunity in these discussions and help look at options to utilize a very strong fund balance and using that against perhaps a policy of a 5-month fund balance that you don't need anymore at the hospital, and money is coming every month. We'd like to kind of talk about some of those options.
And we originally were thinking of revisiting.
That is the next step.
We were thinking of revisiting that fund balance policy, but at this point, as you see, that we're in jeopardy if we don't maintain our fund balance, that we are in jeopardy of having to make cuts. And I appreciate, you know, Peter Austin saying he's going to work with us, but I haven't seen that. I mean, all I've seen is my job being threatened. What I've seen is statements that $20 million, if we go to a referendum, is too much, and that's not true. $20 million is not too much. We can be on $15 million today, and it's actually the voters' choice. I don't understand, so I don't feel like there's been collaboration from county administration.
Okay. That doesn't help.
I know, but it's the truth.
It doesn't, it's again, we're back to narratives. That's the way you view it. It just doesn't help the conversation. There is definitively, I'm going to acknowledge, there is definitively an issue with what we anticipated happening and the reality of what is happening.
Correct.
There's a huge void that we need to look at and address, hands down. Nobody's going to argue that. There may be 100 different ways that come forward with people who have different ideas. I think one of those is, what would you say, the question, what would you say an adequate reserve would be? If not 5 months, what?
I'm gonna say I don't know that, but I can tell you, I don't think it needs to be 5 months. 5 months is predicated on twice a year revenue, in June and September. Those property tax distributions.
Understand, because of the payments, I get that.
When the money's coming in every single month, and we're starting with a fund balance right now, we're finishing fiscal '24 with about 11 million, I think we can manage our way through that. And I'd like to look at it.
But part of, and I'll say that, I guess my question would also be is, what's the collaboration that happens from this point going forward? Those kinds of figures are something, and if it's to work through the finance committee, and finance committee members are going to get engaged and work much more closely.
There's an expectation that county administration and finance, you know, whether collaborative or not, that we can come back with some scenarios for the mental health board. There is actually that expectation.
Okay,
so
that's one answer. The other one too is, and you know, again, I understand how hard it is, but have you viewed these programs, and all of these programs your board feels are absolutely necessary to fund?
We had to do that, make that tough decision
That's what I'm asking.
this allocation cycle, yes.
So there are no new programs, there are no.
And there was discussion about, you know, removing the 2 county programs, 22nd and the, you know, police social work program. But again, I stated they're part of our network. They're part of the services that we funded. We believe they're important mental health, but that would alleviate, currently right now, it would be, you know.
609,000. I think
that might be something to.
That could be something.
Say it again.
That might be something to consider.
I think that has to be part of the discussion.
I think that's something our board, but it's our board, just to let you know, our board is totally autonomous with our budget. That's part of our law.
Assumed.
So our board is going to be making that decision, and there's some tough decisions that are going to be coming up. That's probably one of them. Again, I didn't want to, at the 11th hour, it wouldn't have been fair to make any kind of decision like that.
Theo, I'm not questioning your decisions. Your decisions are your decisions.
But at this point, if our board decides to do that, they need to make a decision early so that they can let.
I'm not talking about this
county
allocation
programs.
level. I'm not, yeah. This, you're done, this is your recommendation. I'm not questioning that.
Right.
I mean, as we move forward and we address the significant shortfall, I think everything is on the table. And one of them, and the only reason I say that is because I think it's easier for the county board and those entities to find other sources of revenue that are not available to any of these other organizations, right? So that's, and I'm not talking about today, I am talking as we move forward. I think those things have to be on the table, and that's what we have to look at. Because again, you're right, there's a finite number you're going to get.
Like that. And
exactly.
I think our board will be looking at that, looking at policies that maybe are similar to the senior services of not funding a county program. So there's a lot of discussions that we have to do at our board level, as well as really assess to where our board is at regarding next steps. So we were just made our allocation decisions. So we also need to come together and discuss next steps as well.
I really think that we need to get, first of all, the county needs to take responsibility for what happened, and I'm sorry that that has not happened. I feel like it's all been put on you. I really would like to see our finance, your finance, not only committees, but maybe people together in a room and try to collaborate without any of the politics, without any of the blame, and try to figure out where we can go. Because that is the only way this is going to be solved. And there's going to have to be some compromises. But ultimately, I agree that 609,000 with the county programs, I think we should be taking those because we do have more ways to get money. But there's got to be other things done too. So, I mean, obviously nobody has an answer right now. It's going to take a while. But if we can get everybody in a room and just talk together.
Yeah, I think it's the police social work program, it's a great program, but it's not true to the 708 mental health board. So that would be one of the things that, would definitely be on the table.
But I guess I'm hearing that. Are you asking us to maybe come up with some potential recommendations on how to move forward, like to put a task force together, or to say the finance committee from the county board will be sitting and working with your finance committee? Is that?
Well, we report to this committee from the county
Right.
board, so I wanted to give you that, just the overall feedback, and just talk about what the next steps are. We'd like to partner on sustainable, a sustainable solution, and what that would look like, and how we can do that together. So I know, again, our network council met yesterday, and the executive directors are very interested in being part of a task force. But minimally, I thought I could bring them here, and I don't know if you'd want me to, but, for you to understand, again, from a community perspective, how this is impacting them. So I thought I could come in every month with some of the programs and bring it here to this committee, again, more from a program level. I think you get it, I think you understand how it's impacting, but I just, again, I know that they want to be heard as well. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, and I have no problem with that, and we're gonna have new members on this committee.
Right.
So, and I'm gonna guess that most of those new members, from what, we heard, don't bring a whole lot of experience or knowledge about what those organizations provide and how it impacts the community. But, I defer to my chair, but I would not have a problem. And again, I think it would have value to those new members of this committee, whatever those individuals are.
Well, and I won't be on this committee, obviously, but if that's not allowed, there's always public comment. They can come in
And
here
that's
3
where
minutes.
my job was threatened, if that happens. And I had no control over what happened with the public comments last year. There was an advocacy committee, just for the record, that is going on. I would never participated in any of those on the provider level. They're the ones who activated, it was grassroots level. I had nothing to do with those public comments, just so that this board is aware of.
We talked about First Amendment rights.
I know, but here we are again.
Yeah.
I think this is elevated. I will tell you, I am personally offended by the comments that were made today about specific individuals. And again, someone threatening you with your job, that's inappropriate. This is elevated because we are all on the same page about the concern about what happened. And our emotions are way too high when we talk about these things. We have to make a commitment to sit down and try and find a solution. And I think you have that commitment, at least for those of us who are moving forward, that we will do that and that we're here for you. Again, I leave it to the chairman and to you to determine what the next steps are with this committee and who comes forward. But we gotta pull the rhetoric down and be collaborative and not let this separate us or let other people add to the conversation. We worked on the referendum. I don't feel real good about the results either. So we're committed, and I think I have that from the administration, but I think everybody's got to dial down the rhetoric about who said what and what did who and who was contentious and who wasn't contentious. It's not helping us move together forward.
But it's some good takeaway going forward, I was among one of those that wanted us to wait a little while, I know you were too.
But I worked on it and I committed.
I know.
I was full in.
I said I'm going to vote against it, but if it passes, I will support it. And that's exactly what I did. But I just, I've been doing this kind of thing for too many years. There's always something that can go wrong. It just, you need to take your time on things like that. Do a trial run. In long-term care, we have a mock survey. I did a mock survey every year before the surveyors came, because as good as you think you are, there's always something that you forget to do. And so this was new, and
And I'd like to see the revenues after 6 months. Some of the months that are coming up are not the best, but I'd like to review that and see where we think we're going to be. I appreciate this from the department about what they think our estimates are going to be, and then we have to have a conversation. We do.
And Peter, is this something that could possibly increase too? I mean, with,
It absolutely will.
with what, population, just
Governor-
usage
Governor's
and different
Pritzker's-
seasons?
Governor Pritzker's, if you saw his economic report recently, he's actually predicting a few years of sales tax decrease for Illinois.
Respectfully, that's because of some negotiation tax. He's coming at the state's income tax reserve.
Yeah, he's not talking about
Not
sales,
ours.
yeah.
Okay.
Ours had a 3.5% increase last year.
Okay.
And it's going to continue. So I want.
There is that that optimism that it's gonna go up.
Again, we won't be at our 10.98 until 2028. So currently, on the property tax, we were at 10.98 million. It'll take us until 2028 to get to 10.98 million.
I'm gonna bet against you.
And that's every.
Well, that's their estimates. I mean, she's
That's
based
it.
on the estimates,
That's
but I
it.
also
Right.
agree. I think it's gonna be better, but that's the estimates that the department is giving them.
I'm looking forward to working on a multi-year model.
What did you say?
I said I'm really looking forward to working on like a 4-year model with Leonetta and kind of show how we can get there.
So moving forward, I do think it's important to, hear from some of the providers, with the new boards.
I think it's a good idea.
Committees coming together. I think the little education presentation that you do would probably be important to start with and then move on. But, I mean, is there any working with finance in this committee or specifically just kind of finance?
Perhaps to the committee as a whole.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to hear this.
And again, like, everybody's pretty discouraged by the outcome of this because our intention, was to get you more money.
I know.
Than what it could have been under the property tax scenario. So, there are a lot of people that are here to work with you in getting something that you need. But I think hearing from some of the providers periodically is always a good.
You've heard the little template all the time. It's not just about the stories, although those are extremely important. It's also about the accountability. What do you do with your money? Who are you helping? How many clients? What's the reduction? All of those things, yes, that helps tremendously.
And those things go to more support.
Yes.
There are a lot of people who, until I was on this committee, I was not very involved in the mental health movement in the area, and the amount that you hear from people, it's eye-opening, and there's a lot of support for you and the mental health board.
And I know the county, again, we appreciated the extra dollars last year that, county administration recommended and the county board, approved. I know that the county board members were in this with us and, and I know you're probably as disappointed as we are as well, but, I just, I don't know where else to go at this point. I mean, we know the voter referendum is probably the next step. And that's the only thing that makes sense. But it's this county board that is gonna have to make that decision. I know, you did that with DOT. I know that was the gas tax, but yeah, I'm hoping that, with the new board, there's the support as well in moving forward.
Which is why your attendance at these meetings and educating people with you.
So how often would you want me to?
You know what, I think you have to talk that over. You, the three of you probably need to figure that out, looking at the agendas and budget presentations and stuff.
Right,
So
I think originally we were coming quarterly,
Yeah,
which was something new. And I don't know if you want to maintain that or.
I think quarterly is good. I think that's a good presence.
I'll let you guys figure that out.
I'm also curious too about the cash reserve. I'm just really curious what other mental health boards do for their cash reserves. Because I'm thinking 6 months is probably you know,
We have
a realistic figure,
Is
but
it
we have
five? But isn't
Okay.
five kind of a
We have
general
5 months.
accounting?
Okay, and
practice?
was that based on anything?
It was based on the county.
Just accounting principles?
I have a policy that's generally for the general fund that only receives monies twice a year,
Okay,
right? When you gotta stretch it all over the year, that's why you need to have a 5-month reserve. I think that we can do less than 5 months in a fund that's getting money every single month.
well, that's why I'm asking. I don't know what,
But
you know,
the-
protocol is
But
for some.
the money that we're getting every single month doesn't even meet our monthly administrative expense. So I'm just concerned because, you know, we're getting even less now. That doesn't even meet our monthly.
Fortunately, you're sitting on millions of other dollars. And I'm really want to work on that with you.
And we're committed to that.
Yeah, all I can say is we are.
I've
I've showed, you know, preliminary, I just did it really quick, what the next few years would look like. And, I mean, that doesn't give us.
We all have to have a positive attitude that we're going to address it and come up with a solution. That
That's-
probably isn't going to be enough for any of us sitting at this table. But we're gonna do it.
No,
We're gonna work on
I
it.
agree, that was my intent when I first met with county administration 2 days after I found out. It's just, I didn't feel that after that meeting. That's all I'm saying.
I just wanted to say that the 5 months has been there for as long as I can remember, but I agree with Pete. I think that it can be reduced.
Oh, yeah, we were planning on revisiting it.
We are looking at reducing it, but it's been there forever.
Well, I think again, because of the way we were funding it, right? I mean,
Exactly.
again.
Well, and it's a good thing that you had it now.
Right, it was way back then.
So it turned out to be a good
And
thing.
then, yeah, the way we have it now, it's helping fund some programs right now, so.
I just like big nest eggs of myself. It kept us in business, you know, a lot of long-term care facilities were going out.
Well,
We didn't have that
it's a
cash
responsible,
reserve.
right, it's a responsible thing to do. But now, you know, we're using our reserves in our budget. So that's just the concern.
Well, I really appreciate you coming in. I'd like to say I was looking forward to the report
too.
previously.
Me too.
But,
Oh my gosh, I was gonna
you know.
tell you how much more we were doing. Me too, I know you're in this with us too.
And again, I think bringing your providers to talk is different than your quarterly meetings to us, giving us updates on the financing and where you are and providing.
Okay.
I think they're two distinctive things.
I think so too.
Okay, I wouldn't roll them all into one. I think you want to come and provide where you are financially and where the providers are, et cetera, on a quarterly basis to keep that up. And then the bringing people to talk about what they do and how they account for what they do would be a separate agenda item.
I'll just wait to hear.
Get together and.
Well, thank you.
I think we've got a pretty healthy list of future topics. Seeing no need for executive session.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.